Welcome everybody to day number 6 of the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament, where we bring 20 teams across 10 European communities or countries together to battle it out over a number of days, see who comes out on top and find out, of course, who's the best community in Europe right now. My name's Imperium with the wonderful Zute. How you doing, my man?
Alright, I'm doing great. We've had a couple days break, definitely rested, and excited to see like these teams, like if they've adapted or not. Some teams will come out stronger than before, or some teams, after a 4-day break, some teams kind of fall off sometimes, when they're not, playing back-to-back days or something like that. So really excited to see what happens, coming back to today. It's almost like a reset, so to say.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to bring about. Of course, I'm sure in the off days of this event, they have been competing in other events, but there's a couple of variables that we are going to be getting into before the start of game 1, and of course throughout the day, on how things could be different. I can safely say that we were generally pretty happy and impressed with some of the performances we saw in the first 5 days. At least I can say that. As we look into the overall standings, I think the points are going to somewhat replicate that.
Germany right now is leading in first place at 333, and just take note of their elims, right? A very heavy elim community. And just a quick reminder for anyone that's like tuning in that might have forgot or is new to the show, there's 10 communities, a total of 20 teams. There's 2 teams per community, and that total score is the score of the 2 communities for that region put together. So it's a combined effort.
Yeah, and to give you an example of that, taking leaders Germany, the 2 German representatives is Big and LMV. Big currently have a total across their first 16 games of 181 points. LMV have 152. So you can see that there's a pretty kind of good balance. And the community in itself is really working together in a good way, which is great to see. Of course, LMV unfortunately didn't qualify for the PMPL in the PMPL qualifiers over the weekend. So I'm curious on where their mindset is at, to be perfectly honest, as a competitive team. But when you look at a community like France, who aren't far behind Zute, 324 points, but Game Lord have 210 of those points. So over 2/3 of French community's points have been garnered by that one team. Chazmike, they're not doing bad, but it's only 111 to 210. That's a pretty big difference.
That is a big difference. And I think like if there's one team doing more than the other that stretch that difference in points, as we play more days, it's going to become more and more apparent, right? Because one team can only carry so hard, right? If there's one team that's slacking, that means each time, these 2 teams are playing, there's a bigger and bigger point gap between the 2, and that, the lead, or, them trying to catch up to Germany is going to be a bit harder as the days go by. But that's also why I'm really curious to see like how these teams will play after they've taken that 4-day break. And I love that you mentioned, LMV on the qualifiers, right? That's a big mental blow potentially,
It is
not qualifying for the PMPL. I mean, the PMPL runs the entirety of the year with the new structuring that, Tencent did. And they're pretty much out of PMPL for the entirety of the year. They can still try and get into PMPL next year with the new system that, Tencent came up with. That is a big blow mentally.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious to see where their mindset is at and how that plays into on the battlefield, for sure. Just to kind of point out, and we haven't really touched upon it so far because it was something that was to an extent ongoing, although has been cleared up. The reason why you do see the UK down at the bottom with 104 points is due to the fact that the 100 were playing certain days where they didn't have an eligible amount of players from the UK, and therefore the points that they garnered over those days were taken away. That's been settled now, by the way. So hopefully they can have this second week to kind of rebuild the points and to help UK community climb up the rankings for sure. The one point before we get into this first game of the day, Zute, is that every team has been allowed one substitution of a player. So they're being allowed to bring in an extra player for whatever reason. So that could play into effect on the games that we have coming out today.
Oh yeah, adding a new player to the mix, especially depending on who they bring in, right? Like after playing so many days, I think each team has a good idea of what their weakness is, and to be able to bring on an extra player, it could change a lot. But we're headed into game number 1 back on air and go same old, but the teams I feel like are going to come out today swinging a little bit differently than what we've seen the past week, and with this playing path a little bit skewed to the east, I'd have to say Imperium. But these teams, I know we've had a 4-day break. It shouldn't throw them off, really. Everybody should remember more or less where everybody drops and how to rotate and how to get to their starting position on the map.
110%. Of course, we once again have Group A, Group C, Group B, and Group D in play for today's first 4 games, or for today's 4 games, should I say. So there's no Team Glore, there's no Eastern Stars, there's no Team Bravos, and there's no Uncanny. So that's Slovakia, Romania, Spain, and Portugal communities, all with only one team representing in today's 4 games. LMV going for an early drop in Primorsk, which makes sense. Once again, we see 2 teams in Military Island, at least towards the base area. Greek Army taking the Navi route, and then you have, I believe that is La Familia on the actual base. Nothing really out of the ordinary I see for the time being.
Yeah, Mega Power did fight with another team in Pachinki a few times, but it seems like they have decided, Novo's their spot now on Erangel. They're no longer going back to Pachinki.
Yeah.
And taking a look at where everyone's dropping, not much has changed, I have to say. Well, I mean, we do see one player right now trying to dodge 3 different cars trying to run him over. I think he did get run over, but he manages to survive with like 20 HP. So a little bit of a different start. The vehicle's all circling around him like sharks right now, and he's hugging that hay bale as close as he can. They might have even lost track of him with him prone behind the hay bale. It doesn't seem like they could find him right now.
And this is something that teams always need to consider when we have a bit of a playing path that is not the worst, but also definitely not the easiest, and a little bit awkward, where you're going to have potentially a cluster of teams dropping in around you in a little bit more of an unusual sense. Split dropping the way 4 Romanian men have pulled out, although they haven't been punished by losing a player, is something that they could have avoided a lot easier, and therefore that one player, his looting phases slow down. And when one player's looting phases slow down, I think you'd agree the whole team's looting phase slow down.
Yeah, that one player either has to take more time to loot, which slows down the team rotation, or he's forced to just take some, supplies from his teammates, and that just impacts the overall team's supply situation as well. Right now, we're looking at Yasnaya right now. We got 2 teams in here. They don't typically fight though, so coming into like a new week, a new fresh start almost, I don't think they're gonna suddenly decide to start fighting either. And there we go. That 4 Romanian men player do B, I believe he's one of the newer players onto the roster.
No, he was formerly 4 Romanian boys.
Okay.
So the 4 Romanian boys is kind of like the little brother team of 4 Romanian men, and the 4 Romanian boys kind of team got a little bit split up per se, and you have 1 going to Eastern Stars, and then 2 have gone to 4 Romanian men.
Okay. Oh, he made it back alive with 1 HP. Good to see. We still have 64 coming into the first match of this week. So really slow start. Not too surprising, honestly.
Nope.
I do remember last week we had a lot of scrappy, drops, fights. Teams were still figuring out, where each other dropped. They were still figuring out who goes where for what vehicles off of the drop if the playing path is a little bit skewed. But it seems like, most of the teams do remember what's been going on the last week. So nothing's changed in the beginning of the match. But towards the end and towards the mid game, I do imagine we'll see some teams adjust and play a bit more aggressive or more passive, whatever they deemed was their mistakes after the course of playing, 6 days or 5 days previously.
I kind of want to extend the Blue Zone phase on starting to close, and I said it's been a little bit quieter. Nothing looks out of the ordinary, so I want to extend a little bit on what I did bring to the table about a player, going down, not going down, but kind of slowed down on his looting phase due to a bit of a split
Mhm.
situation. You as a former player, is that something that you experienced often, and how did you deal with that as a teammate or as a team
Mhm.
as a whole when one player was, whether it's naturally due to him being a player or situationally, how was that dealt with?
So we just stick to a rotation timing, right? Depending on the
Okay.
first circle. If the first circle looks good, if we have a good spot more central that we could rotate to because the first circle popped up in favor of us, we just stick to a timer and 4 minutes hits, we're going. Even if one of our
Okay.
teammates, didn't get to loot for as long
Underlooted.
as if they're under looted for whatever reason, like off
Okay.
drop, with what happened to 4 Romanian men, typically we just still prioritize that first rotation if
And
there is one to be made. But if there isn't,
but did you have challenges? Did you have challenges around it where people are like, "No, I need to continue looting"? And were there,
mm,
were there kind of arguments about it? Not arguments, but kind of challenges around that.
yeah, when like in the first year of PUBG Mobile, people very overvalued loot, but that's also because nobody really knew how to take fights in the first 2
Hmm.
years of PUBG Mobile, right? We are playing in TPP, and just naturally in TPP, it's much more difficult to play aggressive. So teams would typically not fight, and due to them not fighting, you know, we would have to loot for a lot more because we don't get loot from other players because we don't really take those
Okay.
isolated 4v4 fights, right? It's TPP. If we don't have to push them, we don't push them. Simple as that. So we don't get loots from enemy players until you're kind of forced to fight, and by then it's like the late game. And when you need a lot of ammo to make it into the late game if you're not getting an opportunity to pick up any loot from enemy
Yeah. Yeah.
players.
Okay. Okay. I think it's something that maybe it could genuinely be talked about a little bit more on how the team dynamics come into play. And I think to an extent that's where the strongest and the better IGLs, whether
Mhm,
through time and just general training or otherwise, that's where they kind of show their strength by
mhm,
making sure that the structure is there around kind of rotational timing and looting situation, whether you're being
mhm,
caught out in the early stage or not. But either way, we move on. The blue zone is about halfway through La Familia, yet to really make a crossover to the mainland. I think that they're aware that with the plane path, there's a little bit of a higher chance the team might be not purposely bridge camping, but just, yeah,
mhm.
just inadvertently a little bit closer to the mainland side of the bridge.
Yeah, first circle, you can always wait out first circle, sit in the blue a little bit. That definitely deters a team that is bridge camping. Like if military zone is covered in blue and a team is trying to camp you out on the bridge and you still haven't gone, it definitely is a mental deterrent. Like, okay, this team is literally going to sit in the blue. Who knows when they'll come over? And then more than likely, they'll leave eventually. So you see right there on the mini map, there is a team actually indeed that is camping that bridge. They're on the edge of the circle, but they're in no rush to go center because if you take a look at the center of the map, the teams that had that priority rotation all took advantage of it, and the center's pretty much filled up now. So we do have GR, I do believe they're the Greek army, representing
Yes.
Greece, camping the bridge, trying to get some free kills on La Familia, but they either scouted it out or they just have a good idea of the potential of how this team, a Greek army, might
Exactly.
play.
Ooh, phase two, I think it's overall a positive shift for a lot of teams because it's eliminated a good chunk of the northern side of the river, so it really takes away a lot of the variables. But of course, it opens the door for a little bit of a Pachinki finish. You have Potato Hill, which is a strong area. The south and the southeast Pachinki Hills, which you have, I think, Golden Esports is on towards the southeastern, is very open for the taking. I don't mind this shift.
It's a good shift. The worst shift would be it would go a bit more north, and then you keep that river in play, right? Definitely will throw
Yeah.
teams into a 50-50 decision making, conundrum right there. Those zones are always difficult, but it shifting south is a very familiar circle, very easy to navigate for all of these teams, and maybe that's what these teams kind of need coming back after a 4-day break, right? So, not too I'm not too upset at all with giving these
Yep.
teams easier circles to work with. And the 100, they have 4 players playing right now, getting into a fight with Game Lord, one of the very strong teams representing France. So Game Lord looks like they're not stopping their momentum that they had all of last week, taking fights early and looking to be in a dominant position as well, especially with that
Yeah,
crazy
but
knock on.
yeah, but with all due respect, like this is such predictable play from the 100. They drop on the east. They tend to not really rotate the quickest. They're going on a pretty standard central mainland rotation that's closely as Naya. Like honestly, I'm not. It's not that I'm like massively impressed by Game Lord. It's more that I'm genuinely disappointed with the 100. They're better than this. They should be better than this. How did they allow themselves to give free kills over the Game Lord?
The 100 just looked like deer caught in headlights. Like that whole entire fight process, it just looked like the 100 was not sure what to do. And they were trying to run away, but it was a little bit too late, and 3 of their players go down just so quickly. On the other side of the thing, onto the Rozak side, Big getting into a very long range, kind of a scrap fight with the Rex team, and Rexpect actually down to 2 players. Big, another team that we saw absolutely pop off last week. It looks like they're also keeping that momentum up and taking advantage of these other teams. So that's 2 teams already that we've seen do really well last week. That's continuing to keep up the pressure and really show who's boss. And UMP out of the car at that distance. Wow. All right. Looks like these players are very well warmed up too, even coming into the first game.
Yeah, Rexpect is one of those teams which I expected them to have a different player come on through, because from what I saw on the social media, post Nacho had basically left the team, and so they do have Musicus. I never really heard the name. I don't know if it's a different player with just a change IGN. I think it's one of those things where I don't really hold this too much against Rexpect, because I wouldn't have expected Big to go for a little bit of a direct rotation down the south of the river onto the edge of Rozak.
Yeah.
So I could understand why Rex got caught out a little bit unexpectedly, but again, I also have to give a little bit of defense. When you're working with a new player, it can oftentimes, just be a little bit harder to pull off that kind of clean, smooth rotation. Phase 3 goes back up north.
Ooh, is it just me, or does that circle look a lot smaller than usual? I don't know.
It does.
Maybe
dodgy.
maybe that 4-day break made us forget just how difficult these circle shifts can be. Like we were saying, hey, this circle is great, really familiar, and then you get a really hard shift up to the north, and it kind of changes everything. Now a lot of the map that's left are compounds. You have school, you have Rozak, you have the various compounds all in play, and then you have some dips here and there. But all of these teams have to migrate north now.
I don't really like the idea around all these teams committing to apartments, especially. School I get, because I think school is a little bit more disengageable, but apartments, you're asking for trouble with that. I get that it's in the dead center of this circle, but it's only phase 3. We still got 2 to 3 more shifts before the end game comes about. 4 Romanian men, Redox, it's gonna be left to his own devices, a Dewey baby. Going to be taken down, and I do understand 4 Romanian men committing to apartments, because there's 1 to 2 players left up. Desperation move, hope for the best.
Lemniscate right now holding a very nice split at these apartments. I think they were here before the circle shift even happened, because they have a really nice split defense.
Fair.
Unlike most teams, that arrive at these apartments, they all crash into one building because they don't know what's going on. They don't know what's occupied, but Lemniscate holding a nice defense, pick up a few kills right there. Golden really split up. We have one player, Marlowski, caught off by himself and he's surrounded. Oh wait, no, he's got one teammate with him, but the other two players, not sure where they're at. Or wait, are all
There you
four
go.
here?
There's
Are
no,
they
no.
all
It,
just?
it's yeah. I have
Oh,
a
okay.
feeling that all four in the building, or maybe it's a 3-1 split. But it's like he heard you. It was like, no, my teammates are around you. Army Stuyvesant has lots of family around him, but not the right kind of family. La Familia, you know. Dom wouldn't be too happy at that if he's looking at Greek Army right now. Two players are knocked on their side. Melassa, Scythe, the smokes are being thrown out. This is, of course, Headshot Hills. This is a little bit of a precarious place to kind of play around and fight around, especially when it's on the edge of the circle, because you can't get third party.
Seems like Greek Army was on the defense here, but they are getting heavily pushed in. One player already leaving the fight. They're down to one. Malas trying to get a better angle, a little bit too late potentially. They do get two knocks, potentially 2 kill points too, because the blue is enclosed on those 2 knock players. So Greek Army putting up quite a fight. The circle shift does come up. You see it on the bottom right hand side of your screen. It goes towards the school area. You still got the giant hills south of school for teams to play in. As Big comes in with that long range third party and finishes off the Greek Army. So far, I gotta say, all the teams that did not perform as well is still struggling against the better team. So I haven't seen a big shift or big change in style just yet, as Golden gets also completely wiped out by the enemy team.
I just love the fact that kind of my fear of apartments being gone to so early has kind of been like, nah, you know what? Screw you and your analysis. We're going to shift that way in phase 4. It's still not out of the water just yet, but indeed going over to the eastern side, school apartments still in play for Romania Men Redox. The last player up is going to have to contend with a lot of teams heading in his direction, while 7-Up, they still hold down school.
Ooh, Big and Chasmok all slam into the building at the same time. Big just a slight second slower. Might be the death of them, but they do manage to fight their way into Chasmok. Chasmok actually just down to one player. Trazen trying to stall for time using that Molotov, while the rest of Big, I'm not sure if they're able to get a full reset. Maybe they lost one player to Knock and Thirst, crashing into those buildings wide exposed from their left and right sides.
Big able to recover from the odd third party here or there, indeed getting the better of Chasmok. 7-Up, I like the fact that they haven't like necessarily panic push and they're sticking on to school. I really like that 2-2 split. But I'd like to see them start to get a couple of eliminations, like allowing La Familia to kind of rotate in the direction that they have. I think is a little bit of a missed opportunity for 7-Up.
Yeah, taking shots from school is so difficult though, because those windows are not big at all. And you see teams rotating left to right. You know, you could shoot at one car, maybe 10 bullets, and then that window is just way too small and you got to readjust your aim. So they're in a good position though for the rest of the game. Let's see if they can pick up the elims afterwards. Looking at the south side of the zone, it looks like LMV is deciding to take the high ground. I really love the teams that decide to not go for the buildings, like try and control the wider expanse of territories. Those are harder to control and fight for. It requires more team synergy and a knowledge of the map. But I do feel like the experienced teams would favor those open grounds more rather than just dead set straight into the center of zone inside a compound, especially the school apartments.
Game Lord doing a great job holding on to that kind of edge of circle play. They got a couple of kills onto 100 earlier on. They're looking to finish off. Decided Mega Power Spicy. It's going to be eliminated, but luckily his teammates are there. The squad out comes through, and Game Lord will survive as a full squad right before Phase 5 pops up.
It's no coincidence that we have Game Lord and Mega Power, two really strong teams fighting for a position that is not the apartments, right? They both want to control that expansive wide territory on the southeast. Two of these teams, really good teams, are forced to run into each other. And now look at that circle shift. LMB, huge territory control on that south. Same with Game Lord on the eastern side. They're going to clash next, but you can see being stuck in those apartments right now will get really messy.
Can I kind of say I told you so? Am I allowed to say that now? or is this still okay? I get Lemniscate because they're on just about the edge, but I still think that kind of told you so element is allowed to be said by me. Am I? Will you give me permission, Zute?
Yeah, I mean, totally. I agreed with you the second you mentioned it. I would not be a team that wants to default to school apartments just because it's the center of zone. And this is exactly why it's going to get very difficult for these teams to move past each other now.
Oh my god, La Familia! This is gonna go right through everywhere. You're like, hey, what? You know what? You're fighting against each other. You're not gonna spot us. Well, I hate to say it, but you were spotted. At least one of them for the time being. Evil Boy looking to make it to his shack. He's gonna get knocked. Lemniscate. S7 will find him. Aki 98 gonna try and drive it through. He's gonna get taken down. And that is La Familia wiped to smithereens. I don't hate them for it, but yeah, maybe it could have been a little bit more coordinated.
Oh yeah, don't just rotate straight down the middle. Like they should try and wrap around the sides at least. That was definitely a big blunder in my opinion. They could have made a much better rotation than just going straight in, and I think they kind of missed the shack as well. But
Definitely.
Game Lord getting into a fight with the YMCA and the school apartments. Right now we got 3 teams kind of stuck here. We have Big, the solo out of 4 Romanian men, and Lemniscate.
Redox. Let's see if we can time the movement, time the engagement. He wants to wait for Lemniscate and Big to engage on each other. K2 of YMCA lucky to stay alive as he tries to bandage himself up. I did notice that Game Lord currently on 8 eliminations. It's not stopping really from the French side. Not stopping at all.
Not at all. And Game Lord right now has the highest position in terms of elevation. I think they're taking a fight with LMV right now. That'd be a very interesting fight to keep track of. As in the school apartments, there's multiple buildings still in play, so I don't think they're going to fight yet. Here's the fight with LMV and Game Lord. 2 massive teams just clashing each other, and it's like I predicted this 2 circles ago. Second, I saw both of these teams vie for the high ground, vie for the wide open areas. They were going to clash eventually. Right now, LMV down to just 1 player. Game Lord getting the better exchanges, but Game Lord also getting shot in the back now by YMCA. And with that circle shift, if Game Lord can reset this and survive the third party, they're going to be in a really strong position to close out the game.
Well, we come to our LMV after the game because it's something that I've definitely noticed, but don't take away from what Japan can do. Normally acts as manager, but he's that kind of extra player that can come out in these kind of situations, and Nirny is able to pull it out. Unfortunately, does get knocked after reviving her teammate Lusa Tigos. He's left on his own. He's gonna get spotted out, and Game Lord wipes out LMV, and they do continue to rack up the eliminations. RT9, by the way, formerly Showdown Gaming, have yet to highlight it. Big onto YMCA from a distance is good, but we've yet to see the engagement between Big and Lemniscate.
It's about to boil down as the blue zone is closing. They're gonna be forcing each other. It looks like Lemniscate's gonna get their rotation first. You see it on your top right hand side. They do rotate into the zone. YMCA down to 1 player. By the way, beautiful job out of Game Lord. They were fighting 2 different fronts, and they managed to knock 2 of YMCA, which stopped that third party, and they finished out the other team. So Game Lord also keeping 4 alive through the process of all of that. Big trying to get out of the school apartments. They are coming in behind on foot, no cars. This shouldn't be able to be possible, but they're running it. I love the spread formation though. Not sticking too close to one another gives the enemies a little bit harder to decide which one to shoot at.
But Lemniscate, why would they disengage away from apartments when they haven't confirmed the kills on the Big? You're asking to get third parties. You're asking to get stabbed in the back. Yes, they're yet to be wiped, but they're taking a hell of a lot of damage. And you're dead right about Big. There's no way they should be able to get away with walking out of apartments on foot, but indeed they've got the job done. And it may be a new name from this sort of RT S9, but same unfortunate result as they go down in fifth place. The final 4 teams are in front of us.
Big definitely getting away with what they should not have, but then again, if Lemniscate stayed and fought Big, that's just guaranteed death for both teams. So it's one of those tough decisions that Lemniscate had to make. I think disengaging was fine given the fact that they didn't decide to fight earlier. But
Fair.
the execution was definitely flawed. I feel like they could have pulled up in a better position. They could even just leave one player back to completely stall out big, right? And then the other three move on in almost like a sacrifice player, like we see it done in Sandbox multiple times.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I'm sorry, but 18. I repeat, 18 eliminations for Game Lord. 1-8. 1-8. Zute.
I see that now.
Like 1-8. And it doesn't look like they're stopping anytime soon as Swave takes a hell of a lot of damage. Mihi is still alive. Lemniscate are still going, but down for Sachi at the hands of Mihi. Lemniscate, they're going to go down to 4th place, top 3, but at the end of the day, this is all about Game Lord continuing to carry the French community on their backs.
Oh my gosh, the angles, the setup. One of Game Lord does get taken down to a car explosion, unfortunately, but they take out big. Now it's a 3v1 situation. YMCA versus Game Lords. And Game Lords, I do think they're going to hit up to 21 eliminations. And if you do the math on that, 64 players minus the 4 of Game Lord, that's 60 enemy players. They have wiped 1/3 of the lobby.
Yeah,
if not more.
I appreciate the effort you're putting out on board with the DP28. Dodges, ducks, dips, dives, dodge. Does find a knock, trying to confirm it. In the end, Game Lord will seal the deal, and it's a 21 elimination chicken dinner from the French side. C'est la vie, Zute. C'est la vie.
I mean, we asked the question, what teams are going to come back stronger than ever? What teams are going to, lose that momentum? Well, Game Lord didn't lose their momentum. They, if anything, ramped it up even more. That's the record high right now for Elans in a single game. 21 from the French side Game Lords. Absolutely beautifully done. And that's what I'm saying. Take control of the high ground, the wide open, expansive area.
Yeah.
If you know how to have good team synergy, if you know how to control those areas, you will be heavily rewarded. And that team, 21 eliminations and the chicken, that's a lot of points.
I'm going to be a little bit brutal here. I think this is probably the most disappointing game we've had so far of the European Community Tournament, because it was so predictably easy for teams to full send it to apartments. And it's something that I would expect to see in kind of tier 2, tier 3 style play. And I'm not saying a load of teams committed to apartments, but even Big's movement, the reason why they got away with it is because the caliber of the players and the caliber of the team that they can kind of get themselves out of that sticky situation. Right, I get that Lemniscate were there for a while, but how long were Lemniscate there for? And realistically, what did they do with that position? Yes, they did pick up kills onto La Familia, but they weren't going into apartments. They were actually rotating past apartments, right? So that's a different situation. They really didn't do anything against the people that sent it into apartments. In my eyes, Lemniscate should have done a lot more in that sense. But the fact that so many teams did that, it's just, I'm going to be a bit brutal. That was kind of the most disappointing game that I've seen so far in the European Community Tournament. And Game Lord, they lapped it all up right in front of our eyes.
I mean, I think it's the fact that these teams are coming back after such a long break. I have to, default it to that. They're just trying to do what's comfortable. They're just, in a sense, they're warming back up, right? They're trying to warm back up for these matches.
Yeah.
And taking the safe way out is a sign of, not feeling comfortable just yet. But we did see last week, teams got better and better as the games went on, as the days went on. Maybe we'll see, that happen once again, after 1 day, 2 days, 3 days back from the break.
I hope so. I very much hope so. I know what these teams are capable of, and let's see what we have on our screens later on. But before that, we're going to go for a break, show you the highlights. Afterwards, we'll be back. Game 1 results, and then we'll be going into Game 2. Don't go away. Some more fantastic PUBG Mobile action coming your way. Welcome back to the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament with myself, Imperium, and the wonderful bucket hat wearing Dute himself. Game 1, interesting. One team stood above it all, though.
Oh yeah, it's what a way to start off the day, right? Like we're talking about teams might need to be warming up. Let's see what happens, and then a record high amount of kills and eliminations in the very first game, which I don't think, like, I'll say it now, I don't think that's going to be broken. Like 2021, that is an insane amount. And, you know, for the people that were watching back the highlights, like, take note of how Game Lord, they decided to fight for the high ground. I believe in like that fourth circle, fifth circle hard shift, right? When they saw more of the, circle was going up towards the high ground, they took that decisive fight with Mega Power. And at that point, they only had 4 eliminations. After finishing the fight with Mega Power, they had a total of 8. So from that point on, they had a game plan. We're going to fight for the high ground. We're not going to default to, all these low ground areas that might be safer. They took that decisive fight. And after that one, won another one, and then closed out the game with what you see here on screen right now, right? Like 36 points in one game alone, French side.
I agree with you. It's not going to be broken. Before that, the highest was 32 points, which is definitely commendable in itself, but 36 is something else. I would caveat their performance by saying that I think part of why it was easier for them to rack up those kills and win those fights is because less teams were taking the edge of circle, therefore there was less chance of third-party opportunities. But at the end of the day, that's not something they can control. They were still very proactive. They still were quite quick to execute the fights that they took, and it meant that even if there were threats of third parties, they really kind of stop that potential from happening so much quicker, so they can focus on the next fight, the next set of eliminations. And yeah, it speaks for itself with 36. Big props though to Big. I know that I'm not happy with their push to apartments, but still 11 eliminations, 21 points. It's still good for the German community.
They did pick up a lot of their points through the elims at least. I just like how you had your caveat, I will say if Lemniscate was a more experienced team, they would not have let Big made it out of the apartments as easily as they did. And this time around, Big does not get punished for it. But I hope they can still, watch back the footage and realize, like, hey, maybe we didn't get punished for this mistake this time around. But what we did was probably maybe not the best, decision making. As if this was PMPO or a higher league, if a team like Lemniscate with 4 players up is in front of you, they would either leave a player behind to just sacrifice that player and make sure you don't have a chance at all of making it out of the apartments, or they would have played up their defense a bit better and just still caused a lot more trouble for Big, because they just ran out in the open and made it up to a top 3 position. That does not happen at the higher level tournaments.
For sure. Gamer kind of really stole the thunder from a lot of these teams, right? Because I really didn't realize too much that Red Moon had 10 eliminations, for example. I kind of didn't realize that Real Tigers S9 had 10 points in total in that regard. And YMCA, gotta give them props. Yeah, okay, Game Lord had punished them quite heavily on that eastern side, but that one player stayed alive, kept himself going, and with those 3 eliminations got himself second place and 15 points. YMCA are like, kind of, for me, starting to become the most improved team in this European Community Tournament. At the end of last week, they scored a total of 45 points, which was nearly as many as they'd scored in the 12 games total, and they start the first day of this week with a good 15-point game. I'm bringing on the Norwegian, the Nordic community representative. I like it.
Yeah, and then I mentioned this earlier in the broadcast. I want to throw it back to Game Lords, right? 21 eliminations, by the way. That is 5 entire teams. Each team has 4 players. 21
You
eliminations.
put it like that, man.
They took out 5
Yeah,
entire teams, plus one more, right? 21, not 20,
of course.
21. So 5 entire teams, plus one more. 1/3 of the lobby. 60 players. They take out 21. That's still crazy to think about, but
It is.
Can they do similar on a map like Miramar? We have a way different map coming up next, vastly different from Erangel. But I feel like that momentum, man, like if they could carry that momentum after a 4 days break and come back even stronger, starting off the day with 21, I'm excited to see what they do in the next 3 games.
Yeah, and Game Lord have been the team that has really evolved in a massive way, more than they have been given credit for in the past. Back in the spring split of 2021, they were a little bit more of a volatile team, so this kind of performance that they showed in the first game would often be followed up by a bit of a poor performance. They would kind of show tier 1 level gameplay in one game, and then kind of tier 2, tier 3 level gameplay in the next game, right? But they worked on that consistency. They worked on the communication of the performance, and then we saw the depth of their abilities in the fall split. Although they didn't make it to the PMGC, that depth and that strength is there. And as we move into this game 2 of today, I think they'll follow it up with a pretty good result. I think that consistency is there for the French side, for the French community representative to get another strong result. But the playing path today is upon us.
Yeah, this plane path not looking too good. We've seen in these Miramar matches a lot of teams actually land and loot in the northeast, and given this plane path, trying to stretch for vehicles to go up there. I mean, all I really see is maybe the San Martin Road and the Graveyard Road. That's where these players can stretch towards. But look towards the northeast, there's like 6, 7, 8 different loot locations, meaning if 8 different teams want to go up there, and there's only 2 roads for vehicle spawns to get there, it could get really tricky in the southwest side of the map. I mean, you have Chuma, you have Valdemar, and I mean, no one really goes towards, Minas del Sur, Los Higos for loot. At least not in all the Miramar matches we've seen throughout the days. So there's going to be a lot of teams trying to stretch for that northeast, and it might get really tricky.
Whoa, this is kind of okay. Outside of Red Moon, am I right in saying that like 2/3 of over 2/3 of the lobby dropped in the first half of the playing path? Wow, that is really interesting to see. Phase 1 pops up, and that's a big, massive kick in the face, right? Like, you couldn't ask for a worse phase 1 in comparison to a playing path.
Well, a lot of these teams are trying to stretch towards the north, so it does work out for them. And we do have the rematch, right, between Mega Power and RT9, I believe. They are the
Real Tiger 9, yeah.
They changed their team name to the Real Tiger 9, I believe is what you said earlier. Is that correct, Imperium?
It is indeed, from Showdown Gaming to Real Tiger 9.
Okay. So this is a rematch, and well, looks like Mega Power do get the opening right there. Mega Power definitely with a better spread and positioning. Reti by himself, if they can isolate that one player, they can maybe swing it back in their favor. And Reti actually goes aggressive. Not sure why he pushed down the stairs.
I know.
I really don't agree with that, and don't know why he did that at all.
Yeah, because I would, and correct me if I'm wrong, but his job at that point, after initially getting a knock onto one of the RT9 players, is to slow down RT9, to create a little bit of a distraction, to play with them a little bit, while the rest of his team loot up a bit more and then compound onto either side of the apartment buildings, and of course use that man advantage. Whereas by going aggressive, not only have they lost the advantage, but they're losing the fight one by one.
Oh, Zan's trying to dodge, duck, and weave right there. Not from the 100 though. The 100 takes down that player, and yep, that's what I was talking about. That roadside Teams will stretch
Mm,
for that roadside. They will try and go for that car. And so we see an early elimination there due to the playing path. Of course, these two teams, they fought here day in, day out. And if I remember correctly, it's actually Mega Power that usually gets the better of this team. But looks
yeah.
like not today, not today. Looks a 4v2 situation. And ooh,
Oh,
beautiful shots with the top.
Sceptives! Oh, Sceptives, I think he's new to this RT9 roster, at least for week 2 in my eyes. I don't remember that name playing, but he's shown that, hey, I do have value to this team. Fella, the last player for Mega Power. I kind of like this position on the very roof side of this Coliseum, because I think it's probably the safest place out of all the levels.
Mm-hmm. He is moving around a lot, though. Like, does kind of give away his position if he was just trying to hide here, but maybe that wasn't his goal. Maybe he's trying to bait them in, get 1 or 2 easy knocks, and then finish out the rest of the team in a 1v4 situation. But fella missing a few too many shots, forced to fire a couple more bullets to get that knock. He does get traded in. As RT9 taking over Picado.
Yeah, good turnaround by RT9, but it was realistically at the hands of that one mistake, and
Yes.
it's of course it's not you're not always gonna see it happen, but it does show how tough of a domino effect a team fight can be when one player goes down. It's like that kind of next one goes down, and next one, and then the last
Yeah.
player. So it's harsh for Mega Power, but hopefully they'll learn from this experience.
Yeah, and the player that went down was the most crucial one, right? He's the one keeping all of the pressure onto the Mega Power team. Or not the Mega Power team. He's a player keeping all the pressure onto RT9, being the close range in the same building with 3 other players, and he got that knock. All he does is stay alive and let his teammates work the angles. RT9 is not going to feel comfortable pushing out, not with a player on top of them, and then he can bait them in into the rest of his teammates that have all the angles set up. But maybe that'll happen next time in a similar situation. Maybe they'll learn from it. But it's good to see RT9, claiming a win for themselves there and Picado finally.
Sports taking a couple of shots onto George of 7-Up. They lost Starkey as well as Son, so it's just Sound and George that are left up, and the Miramar, when you're down to 2 players, becomes incredibly tricky to pull any kind of strong result out of the bag. Czech Republic / Slovakian community representatives now going to be just holding on to the safety of Power Grid for the time being, at least one of the players, so we'll have to wait and see. Good shots from Golden Esports, just kind of pushing them away, making sure that Golden Esports have some good space to play with.
7-Up losing 2 due to that playing path. Both players trying to Starkey and Zans dropping for those vehicles, and they either didn't find it or they got beat to it. So now taking a look at some of the other teams, Lemniscate looting way up in the north, which is really good for them because if you guys remember, the first circle that did pop on up is very northwest, more north than what we typically see on a match of Miramar. Greek Army taking a look towards the 7-Up side. Maybe this player heard a car pull up or potentially saw the player, but they're playing very, very aware right now. And yeah, with that circle, a lot of playing field or a lot of room left open still for a lot of these teams to play. But given the rotation so difficult, you see way in the east, way in the west, and even LMV down in Los Higos, Minas del Sur, probably due to that plane path that we saw earlier at the start of the game.
Yeah. They normally drop in Campo Militar, and I really like the fact that they do have that secondary drop spot. I believe it's one of the first times I've seen them pull it off. Yeah, it's rare we have such a southern plane path, but I like that. It's really important that you're able to be adaptable. That's the Greek Army looking to take a couple of shots on the Church. Church, what do you do? Are you sticking to Power Grid? Are you not sticking to Power Grid? The more you move around, the riskier you're putting yourself in as a position. And once again, when your team's down to 2 players, is it really worth the risk?
I wouldn't say so, but he's desperate. He's desperate for meds. Look, 0 boosters, 0 first aid kits, 0 bandages even. He's just trying to find whatever he can. And I believe the power grid area that he was looting is probably already looted by the Greek army because Greek army was chilling right outside of it. So his teammate does have 10 bandages and 2 drinks, but no first aid kits on the entirety of the team. Even though, they're down to 2 players, but it's always good to have at least one.
Yeah, I suppose I can get him at least moving closer to his teammate. It's 4 Romanian men, at least on a little bit of a 2-2 split in the southern edge of the circle. Gonna have to be careful. Now, they've had some big, pun intended, performances in Miramar. Remember that game last week where they took 4 fights one after another and still came out on top? They might have to do the same again because Phase 2 continues to shift up north. That was an unexpected shift in my eyes. I do start to have a little bit more sympathy for these teams, especially the ones down on the southern half of the circle and outside of the Phase 2.
Yeah, that northern edge of the circle isn't even on the map. That's how far north we are right now. You can't even see the top area of that white circle. It's actually past the northern wall. If you guys never ventured up there on Miramar, on the very north side of Miramar, it's just a gigantic wall that cuts off the rest of the map. And I would say maybe 10 to 15% of the circle is past that wall. Now, we're back onto big. You mentioned it earlier, Imperium. Yes, or last time we saw them play on Miramar, they took 4 team fights back to back to back and came out on top against all of them. And during this rotation, they spot a team out, they spot a player out, they're going to stop and take the fight in classic big fashion.
Exactly what they're looking to do. Greek Army are in a pretty good compound. It's one of the tougher compounds to breach, but Safe is a little bit on his own. Nades are going to be flying in his direction. He pulls out a couple of smokes and looks to disengage. I like that. Create a bit of a bait moment, and that's what's going to come through. Sway takes a bit of damage. Takes a couple of shots towards Safe. Dodges around the side of the tree while YMCA continue to lose a player or two. 0 eliminations. But I like that from Greek Armor. I think that was very composed and safe, and he pulled out the smokes in the right way.
What I would love even more is to see the Greek army turn on the aggression instead. Send one player away from the compound, pick up an angle, then off angle side, and then immediately you have a player close to the big team, and then you have a player set up on the off angle, and that defense can easily turn into aggression, and they could even take out big themselves. But we're back onto a different fight. YMCA versus the 4 Romanian men. This is a 4v4 deep in the blue. And both teams have nice spreads and nice positioning. It's looking like a really good stalemated fight right now.
Fortunately, Safe does end up getting knocked. He goes a little bit too close to his teammates and fortunately pays the price. Indeed, YMCA lost a player. But it's the blue. Time's ticking. Phase 2. Blue zone is halfway through. 4 Romanian men. Dewey looking to pick up Sarah and disengage away from YMCA. Their 2 teammates are across the road and looking to apply a little bit of pressure on the YMCA. That's where the focus is going to have to be there for the Nordic side. Is Red Moon, the Italian representatives, find the shots onto RT9. It's a lovely nade by Ed to pick up a second knock. Unfortunately, the UK side not looking in a good position considering they opened this game with a squad wipe onto Mega Power.
That definitely slowed down the rotation though. If not for Mega Power, I'm pretty sure RT9 would have rotated past this area earlier on and would not have encountered the team of Red Moon. So even winning the hot drop fight isn't necessarily always, the best outcome. That's why a lot of teams prefer not to drop with another team to begin with, because slowing down the timings and rotations is a bigger impact, the negative impact that will come later. Even if you pick up 4 points early on, the slow down rotations will heavily impact how well you can play the rest of the game. Circle shifts towards the southeast, gives a little bit of a reprieve for a lot of these teams as Game Lord edges into that southwest side of the zone. La Familia also coming up really close to them.
Yeah, but to me, this is a very kind of split in the middle circle, right? You have the road go right through water treatment, and you have the big hills to the western side and the big hills to the eastern side. So I'm curious if anyone's going to try and go right in the middle in that. I believe it's a dilapidated garage area that's right in the middle of the circle. So I don't think these shifts have been very nice for a lot of these teams. So maybe we need to give a little bit of a bit of a defense to the likes of Real Tiger 9 as LMV waiting in the wings. Greek Army left with just one. Not in the best spot for them.
Given the nature of these hardships, I don't think we'll see a lot of teams make it into this circle. Like, yes, we are only going into circle 4 after this circle closes, but we're gonna lose a lot more players than usual given the hardships here. And that's another team, Greek Army, taken out now by La Familia.
Golden Esports, they're in a fantastic spot on the northeastern edge of the circle. They lost a player, Marcio, earlier on, so I think this spread is pretty sensible. Unfortunately, that's what happens when you lose a player in Miramar. It forces you to play a little bit more constricted. If they had that extra player, I think you'd agree they'd be able to just spread out a bit more confidently, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Having 4 players on Miramar is a lot better than having 3, especially given the fact that so many of the high ground is wide hilltops, wide ranges. You need all 4 to control the zones like that. On Erangel, it's a little bit different. You can have 3 and still control the same power positions with relative success, but on Miramar, you need all 4. And ooh, Beast thought he was caught. Beast thought he caught someone laying down lacking right there, but instantly gets return fired, and he does get knocked down. Beast right now on the edge of zone should be able to get revived unless the team that knocked this big player decides to go aggressive. And if I caught that correctly, I think it's La Familia, and they are a team that would venture out towards the outside of the circle off of a knock to finish out a team.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised they're not pushing it. I think that's giving too much. I know they might not be aware that it's big. You just don't rest on your laurels like that. The next circle pops up and it continues to go northeast. Water treatment is there. Will teams full send it? I kind of get if they did, but I think it's a bit of a death wish if you go into water treatment. In phase 4, you have the hills around it. Teams are going to be looking in your direction, but it's a good opportunity for Red Moon to control this game on the southeastern side.
Pocus with a beautiful knock out of that buggy car, but he goes down himself. It's the scramble up on the northern side.
Damn.
Both teams trying to get up this gigantic hill. It's the 100 versus Chasma Gaming N7 right now with the UMP on the low ground. Definitely at a huge disadvantage. Icy Boss can peek whenever he wants, but N7's got that grenade in hand. Ooh!
Oh.
And Boss threads the needle right there and takes down N7.
Chasmac, I think down to 1. I wasn't sure if Shadowman was going to go for the revive. He was running out of meds. He tried to make it in with the buggy. The 100 pickup for eliminations for their effort. Now we switch on over to 4 Romania men. Looking to play it in on the western edge of the circle, but we expect a good spread by the Spanish side.
Ooh, yeah, this spread makes it so much more difficult for the 4 Romanians to break in. I love what 4 Romanian men are doing, though. They stop on the outside of zone at an advantaged position, get some info, potentially open up a knock, and pressure the team or eliminate them completely before going in. And it looks like they are going to instead just decide to eliminate them. So this is what the whole Lemniscate, and big thing. They want to clear out the sides. They don't want to just move in front because we saw what happens in that situation. So these teams are going to be locked into a battle, a 4v4 situation. I do give the advantage over to Rex, so they have kind of a better spread. The grenades might be a little bit more lethal simply because Rex is so close together.
I'm gonna give the advantage over the 4 Romanian men because they're positioned a lot more heavily for the fight, whereas I think Rexspec were a little bit slow to react. However, it's been turned around by Rexspec. The initial knock with the nade, followed by the second from Brad Boy. 4 Romanian men left with just 1 player up. I love the fact that Brad Boy isn't really going for a first aid yet. He recognizes that he can still do work. He can still be a pressure point with that gun. that his teammates are going to be able to back him up. Somewhat of a meat shield situation. However, he goes down. So does Goat Salazar, and Big A going to drive on up. FPP mode in play. Rex, redox spot. Trying to run rings around the players. Jumps up. Goes for the knock. Nearly pulls it off, but indeed, it's going to be Mazzaro with the third party.
Oh, Mazzaro. Yo, check that out on the mini-map, too. The rest of the Bigs team have been set up in the circle, and instead, Mazzaro hung back to simply third party and pick up an elim or two by himself on a fight that he has no need taking, but he's confident that the rest of his team has found a good spot. I don't think we've seen a situation like that yet from any of the teams here. A tactic played out like that, but we do see top PMDC level teams do that time and time again. So really nice play out of the big side.
You smell an opportunity, you take it. That's exactly what Big did, specifically Mazzaro. I really like how the 100 have played. I criticized them in game 1 on some very poor, predictable rotations, and they're doing a lot better this time around. They took the kind of northern side of phase 1 relatively early on, and yeah, phase 2 kind of complemented it, but they haven't been so panicky on the later phases to kind of full set in. They recognize that the north side is going to be overall the less congested side, so they can use it to their advantage, and that's what they're doing.
Very well played by that team. One team I want to focus on, though, is Game Lord. They had a really huge game 1, and if you just take a look at it, we've kind of lost them on their rotations. Didn't really follow too closely with them because they haven't been in any of the fights, but they are now in the center of the zone, heading into circle number 6. And just as I say that, it looks like 1 or 2 of their players have been knocked, and it is the Big team, none other than Big, that's going to contest them for the central location. That's the strongest location left on the map, probably.
I liked how Game Lord, on the previous circle, they did put into the water treatment buildings, but they didn't go into the dead center. They stuck to the southern edge, and I believe they got a couple of eliminations early on. And Red Moon, okay, they are third-partying this wonderfully to give a bit of respite to the members of Game Lord. Swave healing up. Mazzaro's knock pieces confirmed down, and that's gonna be Game Lord finishing off big with the help of Red Moon.
Oh, Game Lord playing that so well. Take note of how one of the Game Lord players never really joined in on the fight and just stayed at the long range off angle. The spacing, done very well, very immaculate right there. As these other teams still trying to fight on in. Red Moon coming in from the northeastern side. LMB Phantom right now doing the best he can as a one-man army. His teammate a little bit too far away. Gets the knock, but immediately traded, and a third party out of Lewis from inside a shack.
Yeah, and as well as even Game Lord as well. Game Lord got involved there. LMV, we asked the question of how they were going to be kind of mentally feeling after failing to qualify for the PMEL. It's kind of being answered right now because they're down to one player, Lucifigos, but I've never heard of that name before. Never mind the fact that they Phantom and even their manager Japan playing. Only perks of the regular roster is in today's game. I don't know what exact reason that's for, but I would argue it's because there's a lot of demotivation for the rest of the team, that to the point where they're taking a break.
Yeah, a break is sometimes needed. I can't blame them. You know, failing the PMPL, that's quite literally the entire year's goal right there, to get into PMPL and play in that circuit, play in that league. So taking a little bit of a break, I definitely think it's well deserved. Game Lord, meanwhile, on the other hand, they're not taking a break whatsoever, going strong right now. They only have 2 eliminations, but it was the 2 eliminations onto Big who fought them for that area of the zone. And well, with the next circle coming out, not too surprising, Game Lord gets the circle because we're in the late game and Game Lord had the center position. And with very good rotations, they managed to keep up 3 players alive. There is 1 player of La Familia hiding in the wings on the southeast that might cause trouble for Game Lord, though.
Red Moon, and they're a little bit of an understated team. Last week they got a total of 141 points in 16 games. Don't know exactly what that is average, but they're starting this week with a 14-point game 1, and they're on 8 eliminations in this game too. So the trend is continuing for the Italian representatives. 100 is going to be their next challenge with Rexpect joining in from behind. This is where the 100 have to have their wits about them, but they also need to focus on one fight at a time. Turn around. Every now and then, we're expecting a little bit closer to taking you on the 100.
The 100 should definitely focus on Rex instead. Red Moon have an area in the zone, so Red Moon wouldn't be looking to push the 100, whereas Rex, they want to take down the 100 because the 100 have the advantage over Rex. They have that little bit of a hillside high ground right there. And like I predicted, La Familia will be a trouble for Game Lord, hiding in the wings on the southeast. I can't even blame Game Lord, though. That was a beautiful spread, a beautiful off angle if that side of the circle was actually entirely clear. But now they know, but they're down to 2.
Yeah, and it's a 2-1 split. I don't argue that losing that one player means the duo are left alive. Fortunately for them, if they had been the duo together, probably would have been able to be traded. I expect they're looking to trade up against the side of the 100. Focus is there now as Redknapp drives himself forward. Daddy lost his life, but he's still going to be eye-gelling from the back line. Icy drives up in towards the vehicle. Game Lord are looking to compound, and that's the end of the Spanish side. I expect 4 teams are left. La Familia, Red Moon, the 2 Italian representatives are still alive, followed by the UK side of the 100 and the French Giants Game Lord.
The French powerhouse right now holding down a house, probably the strongest house there is because it's the only house left in the zone, but the zone does shift away from everybody, shifts up to the mountaintop. Now, Evil Boy, the last member of La Familia, did give away his location. He's eyeing that buggy. He knows he can't make it on foot, but Game Lord knows that as well. So you see Rob's here right now, just committed to finishing out Evil Boy before rotating on in. Red Moon and the 100, probably the next 2 big teams of team fight to start to break out here on top of this high ground position.
Ed gets knocked. I don't know exactly how. I think it was as he's kind of starting to rotate with the buggy. That's not looking good for Red Moon. They were probably in the strongest position, especially as a trio. The 100 trying to carve their spot in this circle. I appreciated the proactivity of Redknapp before this next circle spotted up. Evil Boy gets backstab onto the Italian community representatives. Gets a second knock onto Coco. Beautiful. Makes it down on towards the side of the dip. The shots would have been heard, and Narvello, unfortunately, is going to take him down. But fortunately for Red Moon, they can look to try and go for the revives. That opens the door for the 100 to push on in. Down the side of the hill. Game Lord have yet to really move out. This is turning into a favorable win opportunity for the 100.
If Red Moon doesn't get the full reset, though, the zone is closing extremely slow. If Red Moon gets a full reset, and they do, they kind of have the advantage on the 100. And yeah, here it is. It's happening here, but not with Game Lord. Game Lord can help out by knocking down the 100 as well. Now it's down to a 1v1v2 or 1v2v2 situation. Which side will Game Lord decide to press?
Oh my lord. Your question has been answered before you could even take another breath as the 100. They're eliminated. Comes down to Italy against France. Red Moon and Game Lord 3v2. Narvello looking for the pre-fire. Tricky Do comes in, gets a knock under Versace. We're into a 2v2. Narvello, one of the standout players for the full split PMPL. Didn't quite capture the MVP spot, however, proved his worth. Rob came in later on in the PMPL, showed what he could do. Now, as a duo in this game 2 of the PUBG Mobile European Community Tournament, day number 6, the Molly is going to be fired on up, and Robs takes a hell of a lot of damage. Narvello's going to help him. Says, I got your back, son. I got your back. Gets knocked in the head. Coco's left in his own. Can he be the cola to the Coca? In this moment, the free fire plays through, but the duo comes in. Coca finds one knock. Novello's left on his own. Comes up one towards the high ground. Low ground for Coco. Trying to play on the right side. Trying to beat the VC far inside. Gonna be proactive, but Novello clutches up. And Game Lord grab a second chicken dinner. To back, baby.
To back with 10 eliminations this time. We saw early on, Game Lord only had 2 onto the side of Big. But they closed out the game and picked up 8 more. Narvello picked up 8 kills
Jesus Christ.
alone. did you see the technical skill involved in that 2v2? The quick, committal to that low toss Molotov under that pressure
Yeah,
situation. Most players would just keep their gun out. They wouldn't have the composure or the discipline to switch to their util or to even check for the util. But that Molotov opened up the fight. It didn't even damage the other player, but it displaced them just enough for them to
yeah,
get the opening knock, which was crucial. And of course, on the other side of things, that player played the left and right shuffles up and down the mountainside really well and brought it down to a super close 1v1. But Narvello, you called out his name. You mentioned he's a standout player, and he shows why he's a standout player. Clutching that chicken, not just any chicken, like he said, the back-to-back chicken for Game Lords.
yeah. Firstly, props to both teams in that game, and especially Coco and Narvello in that 1v1. It's very rare we kind of get a very clean 1v1, and I really think it's a kind of ending that could really be analyzed in a kind of slow motion way. Because kind of looking back, first thoughts, I think Coco made a little bit of a mistake. Not in a really bad way, but just that kind of push a little bit too aggressively, because he was using that low ground to his advantage. Narvello knew that he couldn't really push. And Coco, all he had to do was just wait it out, wait a little bit longer. Unfortunately, he got a couple of connected hit markers on, and he tried to push on that. I don't hold it against him, but if you're really analyzing it, I think there was just that little bit of just a tiny bit of a mistake from Coco in the very end, but still a great effort.
Yeah, there were like micro mistakes all throughout that engagement on both sides, right? A step to the left too much, a step to the right too much, and we don't even hear the communications from these teams, right? And I think the communication is probably where the biggest mistakes might have lied. How was the team cons in that 2v2? It actually started off as a 3v2 with the advantage not going to the side of Game Lord. So definitely, some stuff to be learned there. But maybe we'll get a look at that too as we go into the break, and we'll bring on the highlights. You guys could catch that last 2v2 situation in the highlights.
number 6 of the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament has flipped the script big time in my eyes, and I think you can agree. Zute, game 1 was a little bit disappointing, but game 2 is so much better, especially that ending.
Oh, let's talk about the ending, and we got to give a shout out to Game Lord. Thank you guys for, kind of being the welcoming ceremony back from the break. They're like, yo, welcome back to the lobby, guys. Welcome back to the show, casters. Because you guys are in for a show today. It might be, a little bit of a break, but they're not taking any breaks. If you take a look at the scores, let's not forget that even though they had 25 this game, they had 30, how much? 21 kills plus 50. They had 36 points the other game. So, Game Lord, that's more than 50 points in 2 games.
Like, to give you a bit of an idea, last week in their 16 games played, they had an average of 13 points per game. That's a pretty disgusting average, for any team. I know a few of the teams in the lobby down in the lower stages, down in kind of lower end, aren't really as massively competitive. Therefore, technically, it's a little bit easier to pick up eliminations, but that's still an insane average across 16 games. I know we're only 2 games into this week, but it looks like they could nearly increase that average and beat the amount of points they were able to gather last week. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
But again, Red Moon, 21 points in game 2. They got 14 points in game 1. Italy as a community have gotten 50 points across the first 2 games. And considering they came into today's games in 3rd place with 292 points, roughly about 30 points behind France, about 40 points behind Germany, they're making a big splash. They're making a very big splash and putting at least more pressure on Germany than France. Game Lord, they're kind of carrying it, but either way, gotta give props to Italy as a community.
So you mentioned 50 something odd points combined for the first 2 games. Game Lord, by the way, 25 plus 36. That is 61. 61 points for one team in 2 games. That is an average of 30.5 points per game. 30 points. That is a chicken dinner and 15 elimination average right now. I know it's only 2 games in, so of course, you could.
I know
average is huge, but still, 36 points in one game and then 25 in the other does come out to a 30-point average per game right now. And Game Lord, by themselves, has done more in 2 games than 2 teams combined.
Right.
Over the course of 2 games.
Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. It was again, because I as much as you highlight Game Lord, it's when we're not really seeing anything from, at least I don't want to be too harsh and say nothing from them, but nowhere near what we're seeing from Game Lord from Chazmac. I still rather highlight the communities that where the 2 teams are performing decently. So I mentioned Italy, Germany are kind of up there as well. They've gotten 36 points between the 2 teams in the first 2 games. It wasn't as spicy from Big in this game too, but LMV did grab themselves 7 points, so it's 13 in total for the German community in game 1, and then Big got 21 points, followed by LMV getting 2 in the first game. So yeah, props to the German community. We saw LMV at least last week stand out quite nicely. It's a different story this week for reasons we've already highlighted. Don't want to keep repeating it, but still good stuff, and I want to see this continue from the German side.
I also want to give a recognition to the 100 for having a good game. They were a team that never really broke through in the first week of play, but we saw really small, moments of brightness. And I remember we would mention the 100 here and there, and they would always fall short, but they were mentioned because we did see potential, and it's good to see them close out this game with 20 points. So maybe this is another one of those shine of brightnesses that will fade soon and just, kind of fizzle away. Or maybe this might be the start of them starting to play a little bit more consistent, have a little bit more of that synergy going. And, we did come back from that break. Maybe that's what they needed.
It is indeed. We do need to see more from the Czech Republic / Slovakia representatives of 7-Up. Last week, I think they impressed us in a lot of ways. The volatility was still there, but some very strong dominating results. A 25-point win, a 32-point game speaks for itself. A couple of high double-digit scores. But today, first 2 games, 1 point each game. Yeah. Not to be, too much of an asshole, but it's consistency, just the wrong kind of consistency.
Oh, okay. Well, we saw the narrative last week, right? These teams do eventually step up. Ideally, you don't have to play through a couple of days to make that great return. Yeah. Like, these teams might just have to go through that once again. Hopefully this time around, it doesn't take as many days as it did the first week. That narrative was still really great to see, right? Now, coming into the next game, we're on to Sandhawk. Game Lord's the topic right now. Sandhawk is a game that's very RNG oriented. Like, it's one of the maps that, we as casters say, like, hey, if you have to do the med strat because this is such an RNG map, go for it. Now, Game Lord, though, they are on an absolute tear. My question is, as RNG as Sandhawk is, can Game Lord's streak be stopped here at this point?
It can definitely be stopped, for sure. But they're making a very big argument for themselves that it's not going to be. They got 2 chicken dinners back to back in the first day of last week. It happened to be the last 2 games. They're starting this week with a back to back in the first 2 games. Yeah. I don't want to say back to back to back, but
technically,
no, just wink, wink. It's there. It's there.
Yeah. So I mean, let's just head straight into it. This would be the first time that I kind of hope the circle favors a specific team. I want to see Game Lord win again, even if it is because they get super heavily circle blessed. Just cause, like, come on, the show they put on for us in the first 2 games, the show they put on for us in that last match, at that last ending. I'm gonna say this out loud on stream for everyone to hear, but I have never heard Imperium cast as on point and excited for a game-ending finish as I just did earlier. And credit to Imperium, of course, but also credit to Game Lord for putting on such a spectacular show. So I'm very biased right now. I want to see them win this game, even if it is because they get circle blessed.
I don't know, I'm a little bit blushing. Thank you very much. Low-key, the Zute caster curses come through. They're definitely not circle blessed. So it's something that we'll have to wait and see how they adapt from it. We are seeing an initial battle come through a little bit with the 100 losing a player very early on. Daddy goes down upon this drop. I think it was LMV. No, it wasn't LMV, actually. I don't know who it was to be exact. But LMV go for the trifecta compound. Yeah, to talk about kind of the end of that game per se, because I feel like I need to respond a little bit. Play-by-play is definitely the weaker of my 2 roles, but I'm always trying to learn and get better and become smoother and make things, just overall better from a viewer experience. When a situation is handed to any commentator, especially play-by-play, the way Game Lord and Red Moon handed it to us, it always makes it easier, right? That kind of 3v2, 2v2, 1v1. Those are the moments that any play-by-play caster looks for, wants, begs for, hopes they're going to have. So it definitely was made easier by some fantastic plays from both sides. But thank you very much for the compliment. Either way, I digress. Let's get back to this 3rd game of the day.
Yeah, getting back into it, we're back on to a potential knock by the 100. The 100, this time around, only with 3 players Might have been some connection issues. So did see 63 alive. I thought we lost a player early on. Let's actually be 100 starting off this game at a disadvantage. So we talked about it just a second ago. They had a really good game, and I want to see them keep it continuing. But as a 3-man on Sandhawk in the beginning, that's definitely a little bit rough. YMCA on that south side right now. Looks like a lot of these players are still running around trying to get some loot. As Deso right now, no armor, no meds, no weapons, just running in the open.
Run, Forest, run! I don't know what happened to him. I can possibly imagine there's a, I know, a potential bug or whatever, a bit of a glitch. I don't like to really highlight those things, but that's the only thing I can put it down to. I think this phase 1 is really unusual for a lot of these teams. I gotta give them. I've never seen it so heavily down the southwest of the map. Yes, it's predominantly on the mainland, which is a good thing, but it does throw off, in my eyes, a good few of the rotational path lines for these teams.
Yeah, essentially there's just 4 initial circles on Sandhawk, right? The northeast, the northwest, the southwest, and the southeast. And the southeast is probably the second most rare circle to happen. The southwest is the most rare one, like all the way down to, I believe the city is called like Sami, maybe. I don't even. You see Rexcoat running towards that city. We like never see it ending there. So the southeast though happens a little bit more often, but still very difficult to navigate. And as we speak about navigating this circle shift, we see some teams, the Greek army, trying to come into this zone and just getting immediately stopped by 4 Romanian men, but very nice fire back by Sarah. And actually, Greek army, they're down to 2. They're both getting reset though, which is good. But 4 Romanian men have choked them out on the rotation. The last duo still have yet to make it across the bridge.
Honestly, the silliest rotation from Greek army, like the silliest rotation. Not only in general, in my eyes, Zute, but also when you take into account what has happened over the first 5 days. LMV consistently dropped the trifecta. 4 Romanian men consistently dropped outside of ruins. You're going in with vehicles that are loud enough. You're asking to get punished. You're asking to get caught out. They're extremely lucky that LMV aren't really pushing this for the time being, that they're able to get the revives off. 4 Romanian men, I know what they're doing. They know that LMV are around that area, so they're not going to push it. But Greek army, that was very silly.
Yeah, Greek army, another player getting knocked right there. Across the bridge still, so they have yet to make it across to really group up, and that puts the other 2 at the buildings in a really dangerous position, because if LMV starts pressing forwards, which I think they are, there you see it in the kill feed, they get a knock. And now Greek army, I mean, your criticism is absolutely on point. A nice little fire back, a nice little trade, but I don't think the Greek army is going to win this. And just now we saw one of LMV try to get a wider angle, and they ran into the 4 Romanian men. So this is a 3-way fight now, as all 3 teams have taken shots at one another.
Yeah, LMV weren't really like prepared for that fight fully, so I don't know why they really pushed it. That's why I like the fact that to begin with they didn't. And I didn't give them any discredit for it. However, them pushing the way they have allowed inadvertently Greek army to push in and take control of the trifecta area. LMV down to just a solo. Yeah, okay, Greek army only have 2 players up. But I do appreciate the opportunity that they had in front of them. The fight is far from over. It's 4 Romanian men. They want to fully take control. Unfortunately, Redox, he's down on his knees.
What a shot by Greek army. Redox was actually really far away from the fight. Greek army just nails him from across the side, and that actually stops 4 Romanian men just long enough for the next circle to pop up. And it looks like 4 Romanian men have decided to disengage this and prioritize the circle shift. Greek army is going to take advantages of this and carry some more ground, get some more territory within their control. And Scratch at 4 Romanian men is actually just readjusting to find a better chokehold onto the Greek army side. A 3-1 split, very beautifully done. I like how they're respecting this Greek army team a lot. They know Greek army is hurt. It's not a full team, but they're still playing by the book. They're still taking the angles and not just running head on in. And there we go. That
Perfect.
off angle coming into perfect
Oh,
play. And
please.
there's a pop up from Redox. Beautifully played by 4 Romanian men.
Yeah, very, very well, cleanly executed. By the way, props to the observers and, well, the only observer, El Killer, for having that little bit of a mini map scroll up on the right hand side as phase 2 popped up. A little bit sad that, like, a little bit sad for myself that phase 2 shifted up north, but I like the fact for the teams it's going to be a little bit easier for them to play around on this phase 2. It's just we so rarely, like, and I mean like rarely see a southeastern
Yeah.
finish to a game that it would have been nice. It was looking in that direction, but alas, it shifts up north. Mega Power and Red Moon taking shots at each other. Initially was I think Red Moon that opened the door, but Mega Power responded quite nicely, got the revive off, looking for more.
Yeah, it looks like Red Moon's definitely having some issues right there. We're on to La Familia. This is the northern side of the map. We see Big in the distance, Chasmok and La Familia. La Familia down to 3. They did lose one member to Chasmok, I believe. So Chasmok, the other team representing the same community as Game Lord. So they had a rough first 2 games. Maybe this is the game that they
Yeah.
start bringing it back a little bit. Just now in the kill feed, Mega Power finished out a member of the Red Moon side. So Red Moon not looking too good. And if I'm not mistaken, these 2 teams, yep, back here fighting around the center area of the map. So Red Moon, I think they're going to disengage fully. They realize they've lost the fight, down to 2
Yeah.
members. So I respect the disengagement, but definitely something needs to be cleaned up earlier during that fight with Mega Power.
Yeah, they had a good position on the top of Quarry Hill, but they got pushed out of by clearly the stronger team and this early stage of the game. Nice rotation coming out from Big on the northeastern coastal line. I think it gives a lot of spread, it gives a lot of control, and La Familia might feel the brunt of that as I think at least one of their players, no, 2 of their players are rotating on the
Straight
vehicle. Let's see what
Yeah.
happens as LMV, they have a bit of a nice position, and yeah, indeed, La Familia. Yeah, they feel the wrath of Big, and yeah, I get it, but I also don't.
It's both teams trying to use similar pathing. Both Big and La Familia good teams. I think La Familia, in that circle wants entry in from that northeastern side as well. So you see it quite often at the high levels when teams start their loot location from similar areas on the map. Not even the same city, but if they both come from the northwest or they both
Yeah.
come from the northeast, as the circles shift, their pathing is very similar because both teams have optimized and figured out the best routing for the best play options. Like we saw that in PMGC West with Navi and Alpha 7. They fought each other a whole lot throughout the entirety of the league stage, even in the finals. But they finally kind of figured out how to adapt. And the next circle, shifting hard to the eastern side. Now, this area of the Sandhawk map, I think you'll be a little bit happier with because we don't see the ending happen around here too often, especially if it continues to shift further to the east. Meanwhile, Game Lord, just a quick check on Game Lord. I believe they still have 4 up, so there's still a potential for them to get the back all in one day.
Not over till the fat lady sings. Zuta have not started singing yet. LNV Lucifigos left to his own devices and not looking good for him. Big beast driving on by, sticking to the eastern side of Kauai. The hills around it going to be theirs to take control of. 7 up. I highlighted how they've had a bit of a poor start. 1 point in the first 2 games alone. They need to kick off day number 6 in the right way. Week 2, day 1, Golden Esports, Lemniscate under a lot of pressure, but it's not looking good as Lemniscate loses 1.
Rest of the players right now hiding in the grass, trying to get an opening onto Golden. Golden actually getting third party from distance to the eastern side. The player drops down to 1 HP Marlowski right there. He should be able to get a heal off. Lemniscate just forced to play so quiet. They have a big spread, but Golden isolated another player of Lemniscate, and now
Yeah.
Lemniscate is down to 2. That's the problem with playing, so passive and snake style on Sandhog. If the team just avoids you and runs into your teammate, you can't even really help.
But I also really appreciate the calmness around how Golden Esports approached that. Aware that by no means were they really in control of that fight. So, using the train of Sanok to your advantage, it may not be liked by the teams, but don't hate the player, hate the game, right? You just got to adapt and play around it. And Chesh recognizes that there's a team to the south of him and is like, oh, Spaghetti-O, I need to find something that I can play with. His teammate Versace is much further away.
Yep.
Hopefully they can still at least communicate with each other and give over the information.
It does look like Versace's trying to kind of circle back around to his teammate. Maybe even potentially wanting to pass off the meds now that they're a 2-man. See on the minimap right there just how much distance is set between them. Chasmok Gaming with 2 eliminations, quite a better start with 4 players alive still. As one of their players, Trezen, is knocked and slowly beating out. Should be an easy revive, no immediate pressure. We got YMCA Ketu here trying to start up a med strat. 11 first aid kits. Not enough. I'd say he needs at least 10 more to make it somewhat of a potential viable strategy. And he does have some bandages, though, to top him off for now. But with 11, that's maybe at best like a top 7 finish off healing in the blue.
I like the fact that we hadn't really talked about heal strats in this game so far. Because it's relatively quite obvious. RT9, Real Tiger 9. Looking to slow down Mega Power to phase 4 shift in the favor of the eastern side. Okay, I'm happy because this is a part of the map that is very rarely finished on inside Sanhok. So it's going to be interesting to see how teams play around it. There's sweeping hills either side of the road. Rexpect have the southern edge. Big, looking good. Game Lord's rotation indeed.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to highlight that because this is a crucial pivotal moment. Like if they win, is not due to circle luck. So they've been playing on the edge of the circles since the entire time. And if anything, a hard shift away from Game Lord can actually help them because they can use that wrapping rotation that is utilized. And they have vehicles. We saw them get into cars. So they're going to wrap around to the northeastern side, the least congested side, and break in from the north. And if they could break into this zone, this could be a really big game for them. Speaking about big game, Miki does go down, but his teammates are there to support him immediately. Very good defense by the big side.
Yeah, nice response indeed. They lost Mizaro, so it's just 3 players up. 2-1 split coming out for the German representatives will allow them to continue to control the eastern side of this phase number 4. Real Tiger 9, I like the spread, but I gotta say there's a lack of focus, right? They've taken a good bit of damage from 4 Romanian men. They haven't really shut down Mega Power from an elimination standpoint, and it looks like they don't really know how they want to approach, how they really want to defend their positions inside the circle. That could come to bite them in the butt as Game Lord. They're sweeping in, but they've yet to really push into the edge of the circle.
Yeah, it looks like they did run into some opposition as Victor does go down and Rob is now separated from the rest of his team. So Game Lord, this is not the setup that they want to potentially get the 3 chickens in a row. So Sandhawk might be the map that stops them short, but of course Sandhawk, a very difficult map to play in. Mega Power down to 2. We see 2 of their members knocked, trying to breach into the circle. Riti is set to do the med strat, I think, as he stares up into the sky. I'm not sure what's going on there. But here we go. Game Lord versus Lemniscate. Versace versus Robs. Robs is pretty much stuck out here in the blue. Same with Versace. It's a game of chicken for them.
Yeah, Game Lord does have a couple of his teammates in backline to support him per se, or at least stop Versace from really getting too close to contact. Shadow Wen of Chasmac gets to knock into one of the Real Tiger 9 players. Mango running down the hill, hoping for dear life. He isn't spotted. His last hope for his team,
Oh.
and he goes down. Chazmak doing a wonderful job. Finally, they start to say, hey, we're here. Don't forget about us. I know Game Lord will be taking all the glory, but we're here to show that we have the guts to continue to fight, to improve, to get together. The next circle pops up.
Oh.
It's in the favor. It's directly in
Yep.
the Kwai. Let's go.
I don't think I've ever seen a circle finisher, like, ever. So Game Lord can, I don't know how much longer Robs can survive in the blue, but if they can make it in, they can make it in as a 3-man. Imagine if they were a 4-man on that northern hill. As for Big, though, look at where Big wrapped into. Big wrapped into the southeast of Laquai. Both teams setting up for a really nice finish. And of course, Golden is the only team that is set up in Laquai itself. I'm not even too familiar with that area to know how defendable it is. But I do know there's high ground wrapping around Laquai, which is where all of these teams are going to vie and fight for.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not massively familiar, but from what I know in my head, direct hills around the compound in which the Golden Esports players are. But for now, they have the security around them, right? They can't really push in. They just gotta hope that anybody that pushes in around them, such as the 100, they're able to get the knocks, they're able to get the shots. Icy drives in. The two players up are able to at least make it into the building. This is where Golden Esports need to start to sweat it out. Nay's being prayed down. Icy and Will pull off the meds, keep themselves up alive. Focus to Rex both. This is very, very interesting as the next circle is going to show up as well. Shifts continually in the favor of Laquai. Big are still alive. Game Lord, La Familia. Game Lord still coming up. Still has a 3-person team. You said, could they make it in? And they're looking for more.
Yeah, this next circle does not favor them, though. They're going to lose that high ground. They're going to be forced to run down into the open. And just Chasmok and Game Lord, both teams representing the same community, finally getting into fight. And the 100 going very aggressive. They're not playing passive here. They actually take down 2 members of Golden. Golden definitely fumbling the ball right there, as it was a 4v2 situation, but B100, we talked about B100 coming into, this game off of a good performance on that Miramar. Even though they started off this match as 3, they're really pushing it into the late game. Game Lord, meanwhile, taking a lot of shots for Chasmok, hurting them and pressuring them down. The blue closing on their back. They're going to have to move on in soon, but I think they'd be good because the 2 teams downhill are busy fighting each other.
Exactly. I kind of wanted to disagree with your initial point on Game Lord being in a bit of a tricky position. Just from a timing standpoint, they didn't really need to push down the hill, and they were only team on that side, which meant they were able to kind of stay alive, come in, and then the shots come through. The lock is played out. Spicy has so little health. He has to be the one to keep his team alive. There is Rob's there on the underside of the wall, drives it through. Very clean indeed. Respect trying to heal on up. Game Lord, Akashi, and Spicy are knocked with the help of the 100. 2 eliminations. It's going to be a scrappy finish with 6 teams left up.
Rob's coming in for the full reset potentially. When I say full, I mean back only to 3. But at this point, this is a full reset for Game Lord. They are so close to going out. That big fight with Game Lord got so dicey, but Spicy, I love the way he played that. He had the composure and the calmness to keep firing back, to keep the pressure up, and not just let them get eliminated. Spicy gets revived, but then grenaded right afterwards. And Robs is trying so hard to keep his team alive. That is 2 revives and 2 reknocks. And I do think there's another grenade coming. We left the camera right there, but it seems like Game Lord will survive. This is the toughest. Oh my gosh, that's another grenade.
Oh my god.
Rob's
Jesus
the field medic hero. You can say that again, Imperium. Oh no. Oh, come on. Give Game Lord a break. What is this? They're just trying so hard to stay alive right now.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. And Aid has come to blow you in the face once again. Shadow N looks to end the fight, the journey that their French compatriots have come on board and try to get the back-to-back chicken dinner, but it hasn't worked out. He's now focused in the direction of Beast. He knows that he is there, throws out a molly, That won't quite connect. Will drives in around the side of the wall and ends the fight for Game Lord. 3 teams are left up. Beast trying to play around. He's going to be taken out. The Shadow Win of Chasmac going up against a 2-person team of the 100. It was a ballsy move from the duo, pushing him right into the center of Kwai, but it worked out. High risk, high reward, as the circle stays in their favor of this phase 8, 10 seconds until the blue zone starts to make it through. It could work out. 1-on-1 comes through. Shadow End tries to play it around. Icy Boss. Will comes on the driveway. But that's going to be the end. That's going to be the 100 closing out the chicken dinner.
You know, I really wanted Game Lords to win that, but B100, we touched on them having a good game on Miramar. Yeah. And we've seen it time and time again, a shine of brightness and then the fizzle out. And I thought that's exactly what's going to happen here. They start off this game off Sandhawk with only 3 players. And keep in mind when we noticed they had 3 players, it was on the western side of the map. The game ended on the far east. So somehow V100 managed to navigate Sandhawk as a 3-man team from the far west to the far east and then also get the chicken dinner. I think if any team deserved a big win in a spectacular fashion, V100 pulled it through. But Game Lord, by the way, I think they got revived 4 times. 4 or 5 times. Like, no joke, I was counting. They got revived 4 or 5 times behind that broken wall, and the grenades would not stop raining in and knocking them back down. I don't think the PUBG gods wanted them to get 3 in a row, given just how unlucky they were at that game in there.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, will someone give us a break, please? Come on. I know we won 2 games in a row, but Jesus, like, who have we angered? But great resilience from Game Lord, and it was still a strong result, so they can hold their heads high. This game in itself, like, it was scrappy, right? Because the position that the circle ended was extremely uncommon. So it's kind of hard to really properly analyze a few of those moments, in my opinion. I think you'd agree, because it's not, you know, we don't really have a big glog repertoire of moments that we can kind of fall back on to an extent. I think we can safely say the team that lost the most in that game was Golden Esports.
Golden, yes. Yeah, Golden.
That's it. They're the Golden team that lost the most.
Golden had 4 up. They had the compounds, and they lost the 4v2.
They had one job. They had one job.
Exactly. I gotta agree with you. If there's anything to be said, Golden dropped the ball. As for all the other teams that made it to that late game, kudos to you. Those circle shifts have probably never been played by a majority of these teams. I personally, as a caster that watched so many Sandhawk games, I don't think I've even seen circle shifts shift that way right onto the dead center of Kauai. So the adaptability out of all the teams that made it into top 5, top 6, like, really good job. I mean, we saw Big, you know, a very experienced team. We saw Game Lord. We saw the 100. I mean, the 100's rotation was a bit crazy, but it worked out for them. So it's like, I think the teams that were experienced have the adaptability skill to make it into that late game. But also, you know, some of the teams that just YOLO'd it, I would say the 100, they YOLO'd it and they won. So good job to them as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I haven't seen the nearest I've seen is where it's been in Le Kwai for like the first 3 circles, and then it shifts over to the west, and it's on that kind of western hill in between Quarry and Le Kwai. But like you, I don't think I've ever seen it so close or basically inside Le Kwai. So difficult to deal with for a lot of these teams. But that's the way the cookie crumbles, right? That is PUBG Mobile at the end of the day, and it's, if anything, good practice for the teams, and hopefully they'll learn from it for future situations, just like we will. As you go for a break, bring you the highlights afterwards, the match standings for game 2, and then game 3, should I say, and then we'll be moving on to the final game of the day. Jesus, it's flying by. Don't go away. Welcome back to the PUBG Mobile European Community Tournament. It's day 6, or in another terms, week 2, day 1. Myself, Imperium, and Zute. And Sandhawk game is just finished, and it was completely unique and rare finish on Le Quai, and it really opened the doors for a couple of more experienced teams to show why they are where they are.
Yeah, V100 taking that Sandhawk game, not in any traditional fashion at all. Like you mentioned it earlier, that Sandhawk game was very unique. I think the first time, any of these teams had to play a situation like that. And V100 of all teams, a team that struggled the first week up and down, constantly, just over and over. But they had one decent game last game and then started off the Sandhawk with 3 players and still got the chicken after, full sending it in to compound 2v4. What a great ending for them. And we're already going into the last game of the day. I don't know if it's because we have a break, and so we're a bit more rested and we want to do more games, or if honestly, the first 3 games we've seen today, just absolutely stunning, right? Game number 1, Game Lord finishes off with like 36 total points. Game number 2, Game Lord back-to-back with the best game ending. And game 3, the most unique Sandhawk circle. So game 4, Imperium, I can't wait to see. And looking at the scores, V100 finally where they deserve to be, I feel like, for at least one game in the number 1 spot with the chicken with 22 points. Yeah. Really well done by V100. By the way, once again, has a 3-man squad on Sandhawk.
Yeah. And following game 2's 20-point game with 22 is also just really positive overall. But 42 in 3 games, should I say, from the 100 is overall very good form, especially when I was so critical of them in game 1. But that's what I love, is that like I'm not critical because I like to bash on teams. I'm critical because I always know what teams can do and are capable of, and the 100 are showing what they're capable of. But this is a very Sandhawky game in terms of points, right? 22 for the highest point scoring team, then you have 21 for Big, 19 for Chazmac, 13 for Game Lord. And one little fun fact for Game Lord, so far in the 3 games, they've scored a total of 74 points.
Ooh.
In last week's days, the highest individual day was scored by Eastern Stars of 75 points. So with 1 game to go, all Game Lord need is like 2 points, and they've kind of beaten the highest individual performing day for any of these teams. So it just shows how strong Game Lord have been. And for their French community teammates, Chazmac to get 19 points is even better for the French community.
Yeah, it's even better because Chazmac has struggled the first 2 games, right? And the one game, Game Lord does not get the chicken in, but still do really well with 13 points. Chazmac actually steps it up and finishes off that match with 19. So really good, kind of just overall up and up for the French side. And going further down, the leaderboards is where, teams start, kind of falling off a little bit. Rexpec kind of bring it back a little bit. Golden Esports with only 8 total points. That should have been close to a 20-point game for Golden Esports, but they should have, the ball there.
Yeah, it should have been. I still appreciate that Golden Esports are one of these teams in the lobby that, to be fair, are probably, I would nearly argue, overperforming. And not in a bad way, but just in terms of when you look at the experience between Big, LMV, Chazmac as players, Game Lord, etc., compared to Golden Esports, it is David versus Goliath, and they're not the only team that are in that situation. Yeah. So I still have to give props to Golden Esports, and we say these kind of things about how they drop the ball so that they can learn from it, right? Yeah. So that in future games they get better and they get those more consistently strong results. So I'm excited to see how this team improves for sure, not only in the last game but throughout the remaining days of the weekend of the tournament as a whole. So overall props to them. The Italian community, and a big fall from grace, a massive fall from grace. 50 points in the first 2 games, and then in this game 3 they get, I think, 1 and 0 points, I think.
Mm.
So that means that the German community, they're going to be biting on they're going to be like chomping at the heels to continue to remain in second.
Yeah, definitely. And so now we're going into the very last match of the day. 3 games back to back, just completely amazing. Different ways, the match played out, different endings. I'm hoping the same for Erangel. At this point, I don't care who takes the win. I feel like the matches itself have just been so entertaining. It doesn't even really matter at this point, what team starts, to show up. But it is Erangel, so it's the most practice map out of all of these maps. So I am kind of expecting a more experienced team to take the chicken out of this one. I'm looking obviously at the side of like Game Lord or Mega Power.
Yeah.
Or even Big. I feel like Big has been doing really well today, but I feel like this might be their game for their spotlight because they've been doing so consistent. So it's like, will they get the chicken on this last one? But onto the side of Erangel, playing path, probably the best playing path so far out of all the 4 games. The circles, though, yet to be seen.
Sure. Where have Mega Power been today? Dute?
Yeah.
They've gotten massively lost in the shuffle. The team that were the 5th highest scoring team of last week, 159 points in 16 games, definitely not to be sniffed at. But today, game 1 they got 2 points, game 2 they got 0 points, game 3 they got 4 points. That's 6 points in 3 games.
Yeah.
This should be their game, right? I'm looking to see Mega Power shows what they've got. Are they falling down from adjusted drop spots such as Nova? Or is it just that sometimes teams have bad days and it's the way it kind of rolls? Either way, I need to see them pick it back up.
Well, game 1, I remember the decisive moment, right? When Game Lord pushed onto Mega Power going into that 5th circle late game. If Mega Power held off that defense and won that fight, they would have the big game, potentially, that Game Lord had. So game 1, they were set up in a really good position, but the Game Lord team just edged them out right there in that fight, and they ultimately finish off first game with no points or barely any points. Game 2, I didn't really follow what happened to Mega Power there, but before I continue on any further, we got a hot drop going on in school and school apartments. This is definitely new.
Yeah, Greek Army. Not to be too harsh, but what are they doing? Do they even know what they're doing? We've seen this from the odd team here or there where they'll just change drop spots. Not directly game by game, but no real like, hey, no, this is our home. And Greek Army seems to be in this situation. They at least do kind of trade out and get 1 kill on this 7-up, but now they're left with just I think 2 players up, and not looking good for them. Happens to be in apartments where there's only 1 of the 7-up players, so that's kind of positive. But yeah, not the best. Ooh.
Yeah, so if you notice, Starkey kept his lean up the whole time. 'Cause when you lean, your head goes a little bit lower. But I think Starkey forgot to lean for a split
Why didn't he prone
second.
down?
Because he wanted to be able to potentially get the knock, right? If he prones, he can't get that knock on the player in front of him. But if he stays crouched, you can react faster to shoot. But the problem was he unleaned for a split second, and that head popped over the ridge just far enough for him to get knocked. So I think it's going to be a 2-for-2 trade between Greek Army.
However, I would argue he shouldn't have been looking for the knock. He's on his own in apartments. Why look for the knock?
It's a free knock if they're not aware, right? Like I feel like he was playing that safe enough because he had the angle right on the player in front of him.
Yeah, yeah. I disagree. Maybe I'm disagreeing because he did get knocked, but I looked at his position and went, "Why isn't he proning?" But yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean, it could go either way, but I think it's those small calculated risks that teams and players make that set them apart. It just wasn't
There.
executed. Oh man, okay. M16 coming
Jesus.
into play. That sniper,
What the
that bozo,
hell?
put that down. Anyways, it's those small calculated risks that
Yeah.
really separate a star player from just an average good player. And I think I would rather see players play a little bit riskier, like that player just did, and learn from it, right? So I think if he just held that lead up,
Yeah.
he would have been fine. So I personally like to see them play a little bit more aggressive instead of just going prone and going for the straight up quote unquote correct play, right? You see players like Carrillo, Paraboy, Order do crazy things, and you don't
Yeah.
get the chance to do those crazy things without putting yourself in those situations over and over to learn the skill set and the calmness and the confidence to be able to do things like that.
Yeah. That's completely fair. But that's what I love about, you bring that kind of experience and that perspective as a former pro player, so I cannot argue with it. 7 Up, Greek Army. I appreciate that Greek Army were like, look, we got nothing to lose, let's push on over. In
Mm.
the end, they go down. And they go out fighting, even though I question the fact that they did hot drop in that school apartments. They still go down fighting.
It was decisive at least. It wasn't like, oh, we lost 2 players. Let's just, two-man the rest of the
Stay,
game.
yeah, yeah.
So, anyways, Red Moon and 4 Romanian men. This fight has been happening for quite a little while. It's a mad scramble of a fight. You can see on the minimap teams and players just
Jesus.
converging in to help one another out. And it looks like Red Moon is down to just one player, Redox. Here is the support coming in. He's going to try and readjust here. Maybe get a nice grenade knock onto one. Cancels the grenade, realizes he isn't hard pressed just yet. Goes for a little bit of a bandage and
Oh my god!
Versace from downtown with the grenade. Yeah, just out of nowhere.
Ooh,
Really good grenade by Red Moon.
Jesus, like an RKO out of nowhere. God, just layeth the smacketh down on the whole 4 Romanian men's candy asses, and that's why you love to see it. Good stuff from Red Moon. Especially off the back of getting 0 points in game 3. Move on over to Game Lord. They're in Yasnaya. And, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, actually. I think I might have made a little bit of a mistake with regards to Greek Army and 7 Up and that dynamic. Because 7 Up, they normally drop in Yasnaya. Whereas Greek Army are the ones that normally drop in school and apartments. So I actually got that wrong, and just because I always believe in correcting myself, and yeah, Greek Army do normally drop in around the school apartments area because of the playing path. I think 7 Up were like, look,
Right.
even though a team might be dropping there, we'll play the safer route of going to Yasnaya. They were in school towards the end of the first Rango game, sort of familiar at least with kind of school.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just kind of wanted to kind of correct myself on that. Yeah, I don't think Greek Army kind of made the drop mistake there.
And also, like 7 Up might have not wanted to drop for cars in the same location as
Yeah,
Game Lords, right?
exactly.
Because both teams would have
Exactly.
to drop in similar areas to get to Yas. And well, I mean, Game Lord is on fire right now. 7 Up knows it after their first couple of finishes. So may as well drop on, one of the weaker teams, that being Greek Army. Greek Army did put
Yeah.
up a nice fight, took down 2 of 7 Up. But it was an adjustment that was made by 7 Up. So well done to them. Onto the map, I do think, yeah, Lemnisky getting into a fight with YMCA. It's more of a rotational fight, so not a fully committed fight. I think YMCA got a little bit too close to Lemnisky's position up on the hill and suffered 1 casualty.
This is a position that YMCA normally holds on to towards the southeastern side of Pachinki Hill, so I think Lemnisky getting there first is a big component of why they got that kill onto YMCA. Sometimes that's going to be the case. YMCA have adapted. Chazmak finally got themselves a pretty big result. Looking at previous days and the first 5 days and the trend that we've seen from Chazmak, they've only really gotten 1, maximum two good results in a day, and it's normally been in between a very low point scoring
Mhm.
set of games. So I'd like to see them at least have a bit of a back to back solid results. I know that they are kind of a generally newly formed roster, at least kind of Pocus being the biggest dynamic change of that Chazmac team. So we need to give them an element of benefit of doubt as they try to adapt and learn and synergize as a team. But the players that are in the team are by no means new guys, right? They're very
Yeah.
experienced players. So it should be happening a little bit quicker than what we might see from other teams.
I think that's also another dynamic that's not really talked about, right? When you have different experienced players come together on a team, that might
Hmm.
it might not necessarily mean that the team's gonna gel well just because they're all experienced.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
different players experience and learn things differently throughout playing the game, and if anything, that might actually make it harder for them to gel because they come from different backgrounds, different ideals of how to play the game.
Mm.
In my opinion, of course, with PUBG being such a game of different factors, players will
Yeah.
naturally learn things differently, and it may not be the most correct. And when I say correct, I want to put that in air quotes. It may not be the most correct way to learn things. So,
Like
experienced players
so
together don't always mean an experienced team.
yeah, like subjectively correct, I think is kind
Yes.
of, yeah, subjectively correct. You're dead right. And you know, we look at a team on paper and go, whoa, that's a pretty the gosh darn team from where they come from. But as you said, yeah, their experiences could mean that they just don't quite gel together in the right way.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see if that's going to be the case with Chasmac throughout this tournament, and of course the 2022 season. Game Lord, on the other hand, they're looking very well gelled together,
Mhm.
very synergized as they dominated throughout today's games. They play on this northeastern edge of this phase number 2. Indeed, as the blue zone is closing. Wow, we're already in phase 2. Jesus. Don't know why, but this game is kind of flying by quite quickly.
Yeah, we got a nice pace of action. And speaking about action, we still got some more coming your way right now. Red Moon getting into an engagement with Big. I do believe Big rotating from Severny. It's actually Big on the aggression here. And Red Moon kind of getting just caught unprepared. You see their mid
Hmm.
rotation. They lost a player. Now they're circling around trying to figure out where do we go from here with Big nipping right at our heels. So two players of Red Moon left. Big gets another, or Big gets a confirmation on the player they knocked earlier. So Red Moon, good start fighting 4 Romanian men, picking up 4 elims right there, but they do lose 2 now heading into the
And
third circle.
and it's not like the big engagement happened like ridiculously quickly after the 4 Romanian men engagement, right? Red Moon had plenty of time to dust themselves off and refocus, so I don't consider anything like that an excuse. And now it's just Versace left in his own. Phase 3 has popped up. I believe it's gone towards Pachinki. So I can't see Versace lasting too much longer. There's a couple of teams around them. Indeed, yeah, not heavily by Pachinki, but it's still in play with Pachinki Hill, the core aspects of this phase 3.
Lemniski is going to take that hill right in the middle. At least I think they are. Or actually, it
Yeah,
looks like they might be stopping at the Wizard Tower. No, they're moving on up. Rex
yeah,
also rotating in. This is somewhat of a hardship to the southeast. You see so many of these teams in their
yeah.
vehicles right now trying to find a prime position in the zone. And a circle like this is very, very familiar for all of these teams. I think every team should know every little power position, every little nook and cranny of this zone. So I do expect a lot of teams to be able to make it in alive without losing any players, if at all.
Yeah, I was looking at the circle shift and going, there's a lot of areas to play from, like a lot of areas. You have the edge of Potato Hill, you have the compound in which the 100 rotated to, you have Lemnis Skates hillside, you have Mega Power's position that's just shy of the mainland coastline, you have La Familia rotated to where Golden Esports were. Two teams can roughly hold on to that. So, and of course, where you have Real Tigers 9 on the main South Pachinki Hill, but Big are putting them under a bit of pressure. A couple of smokes being thrown out by Mango. He tries to play a little bit on the defense, and they being thrown out by Big. Will send Mango back a little bit, tickles him to a plenty. And La Familia going up against Golden Esports. Both of these teams actually went from the hillside into the compound, and we're seeing a clean compound fight. Tries to finish the kill off. Doesn't quite get the job done. That should allow La Familia to stay up as a full squad on the Portuguese side, trying to survive as a duo.
Well, La Familia will get that full reset too. It looked like one of their players was about to get thirsted, but the trade coming in instantly and getting that save. Golden down to 2 players. Mauricio won't be able to get revived here unless these 2 players right here wipe a full squad. And actually, La Familia getting third partied as one of their players get knocked. And wow, what
I think so. But I'm sorry, like, what were you doing, Lewis? You just revived your player? Get the hell away from him. But either way, we move on. And Real Tigers 9, they can only hold on for so long. As Big take them out. Or you tried to eliminate one. I don't think it was done. Mazzaro? Don't know what happened, but either way, La Familia will continue on, and they hold on to this compound. It's core inside this phase number 4. Lemniscate is on the hill above them. They will have been aware of the shots being fired in that fight, and I'm a little bit surprised that they weren't able to third party it, to be fair, because there's a lot of windows around those buildings.
The angles are slim. I'm pretty sure they did third party get some damage and maybe not the knock. Game Lord right now working from the edge, getting into fight with YMCA on that northern side right there. You get a confirmation on one, and the circle, by the way, has shifted down towards the south. Big having to breach into the circle, but they are so all too familiar with that. And King with a double grenade gets the confirmation and gets a knock on the side. Steps a little bit too much. He got a little too confident off of that grenade, and Game Lord will get the reset onto Spicy, but they are down to 3 now.
Step to the left, step to the right, like a well choreographed dance. Game Lord swinging through and stay alive. And I gotta say, these circle shifts, I've been really happy because even phase 4, there's still a lot of solid areas to hold on to, and I think some teams have really benefited with that. The 100, like I said, previous phase, they rotated to that eastern compound just outside of the hill that's close to where Lemniscate were. They're able to move into that big push onto Pachiki Hill, took down Real Tigers 9, gets another elimination on board. Now they're going to be able to play down onto the roadside into the underside of the southeast Pachiki Hill. And Lemniscate, they've been here for quite a while, but with only 1 elimination and still 8 teams, gotta pick up the pace. Focus, in my eyes, on one core area of the hill and focus it, control it, dominate it.
I mean, they are creating a lot of spacing right now. They're pushing all of these teams into the edge and forcing them to fight one another. So the kills will come later if they manage to keep holding that position down. Of course, it depends on where the circle shifts, as Game Lords having a lot of trouble rotating into this zone. Not something we usually see out of Game Lord. It doesn't look like they have a clear idea of where to go. And given the circle, like, I feel like this should be a very familiar circle, an easy circle for them to navigate through, but that's only because they're such a standout team and they've been absolutely playing on fire today. Mega Power, we haven't seen them much at all today. They're still in the mix of things with 4 players up, and I just want to say right now, it is way too early to call, but I feel like this is going to be Big's game just because they're up to 7. They haven't gotten their chicken yet for the day, and we were talking about it. Is Big going to show up now because they had such a consistent day overall?
Yeah, and I think they've really, like, played through this game really well. They've been proactive. They've been spreading out, taking really clean engagements, and it continues to come through for them. I really like, on a side note, I really love Mega Power's 3-1 split. I think that's the perfect kind of split to play with this kind of circle, because there's no massive guarantee that they're going to be controlling the south side on the next phase. So having Logis on the north side of the road is perfect.
Yeah, just have a little bit of a foothold. Plus, Logis can get some more information over there. So splits are always just beautiful when not even to control more territory, but just to be able to get more information. Now, with the next circle shift, Mega Power does get a little bit blessed there. Their compound's still in zone. Big's got to fight their way in now. And with the top hill of Lemniscate being on the very tippy edge of zone, my question is, will Big try to prioritize the hill, which is the power position, but it's going to be a power position with little of the zone left in play.
A Familia. Not a bad day so far, Barca and Hawk from the Italian side. I like the fact that they have one player in each building. Means any kind of real push isn't going to be punished too heavily by nades. They have the angles of cover. It's perfect. Perfect.
Perfect setup, but the defense has to be good too. If one of the compounds gets full crash by 4, that player needs to know how to adjust quickly in accordance to teammate support. So we've yet to see if they will be crashed. Big was a team that was closest to them, but it looks like Big is going to go and fight for that hill and come out behind Chasmog. Chasmog needs to be aware of this or they could get backstabbed here. And just because I say that, Suave with a nice stop. Oh, peeks a little bit too early. Gets run into the pre-fire.
Oh my god, Shadowin!
Oh!
Shadowin!
On fire.
My god! Did the accuracy and the quickness go from one angle to another without even stopping to think? It is so good, and like, honestly, Shadowin, I love the way he's improving. He came into Chasmac later on in 2021, and I think he's really kind of stepped up and improved quite heavily. However, the job isn't done when Mazzara is still alive. You seen what he's been able to do. Did get the knock with the nade onto Shadowin. Can he get a revive? I wouldn't say it's worth risking it. He's not quite in the circle. That should be his priority.
Yeah, so Mazzaro actually got 2. He actually got one onto 2 of the players that were holding down that. So Mazzaro being the one-man army right now. We're moving on to the Mega Power side as they have been crashed, it seems like, by V100. V100 having a very stellar day, making it this far into the last game. Mega Power down to 3. Looking to control their compound as the 100 is still close by. There's Reznov right there. Good peek by Reedy. Takes that player down. Now the rest of V100, they should make a play right now. It's a 2v2 situation as far as I can tell. It's a close range fight.
Where's the third player for Mega Power? The third player for Mega Power is there. So I think it's more of a 3v2.
Okay.
Either way, it's a good attempt to crash, but it doesn't work out for the 100 as far as I can tell. Chasmac still holding on as a duo there, but getting pinched from both sides. Big, last player. Actually, sorry, the revive came out on the Swave, so that meant they're up as a duo. However, the circle on the next phase shifting away. Out of the 5 teams, I don't think any of them are inside the circle.
No, and that circle's on flat, open ground. There is some trees, maybe some rocks, and that crate. That crate is going to be huge for La Familia. That crate's going to be a godsend for them. But I think for all of these other teams, yeah, you see it here. Lemniscate forced down that hill. They got that tree, but mostly they're going to be relying on their smokes. And I'm surprised this player did not get knocked. And oh my gosh, okay, actually La Familia has completely smoked themselves out. I think that's a little bit too much. They kind of block off their own sight lines. But they'll stay alive at least. And Big still in this. Mazzaro goes down. Suave last one up. 1v2 against Chasma, but they're getting shot in the side by Loft.
Yeah. Nothing they can really do, and Suave does go down. Chasmac able to use the low ground of the rocks, although they're not in the circle to at least get into the top 4. Mega Power come out of the buildings. Lemniscate the Greek side. They do have the northern edge of the circle, but like you said, it's relatively quite flat. A lot of smoke's being pulled out. Necros and Mega Power get to knock in the chest. Another couple of nades being thrown out in his direction. That's going to be Lemniscate being picked off one by one as Versace gets put down to his knees. Freezy, S-Triple-K7. They don't know what they're going to be able to do because they've left Familia on the other side. But they're getting punished by the side of Chasmac, who go bold and go brass. Italy against France.
Chazmok takes good control of that crate drop right there. You can't see it on the mini map, but that player has found hard cover. And I love how proactive Mega Power is. They realize Lemniscate is in a tough situation. And instead of playing passive just because they have the zone, they're actually going to go ahead and push this. And that forces Lemniscate to respawn, causes them to be taken out. And due to the proactiveness of Mega Power, look at that spread that they've just gained by playing proactive.
Perfectly executed by Mega Power. Just shows that it doesn't really matter if you have the circle. It's all about how you play into this game. Chazmok. I said that they needed to follow up a strong third game with a solid game 4, and that's exactly what they're showing us. And the circle is going to reward them even more. 8 eliminations so far for the French side. But La Familia, they're yet to get taken down. Mega Power, they are eliminated though. Pocus from a distance, the other side of the circle, says sayonara, konnichiwa, au revoir if you're being more accurate in the French language. We're down to 2.
You know, I thought that vehicle explosion was not going to take out the last player alive out of Mega Power, but it was just close enough, and Pocus comes in huge. And look at this, Pocus already spreading off to a separate off angle like clockwork. You don't even need to tell them what to do. They already know the situation at hand. And now it's a 2v3, 2v2 after a great knock by Azur and La Familia. I think they put
my god
situation.
Oh my god, that nade followed by the spray, so well executed by Azur. And as you said, Pocus flank around on the side. Unfortunately, he actually got knocked, so we're into a 1v1. Azur going up against the evil boy. The crate held down by Azur. He has level 3 vest, level 3 helmet, and he has a pocket full of dreams. Evil boy wraps around. He has a bit of a buggy. He has the rock. You need to blow up that buggy. He doesn't know whether or not Acer has nades to play with. He should be presuming that he has nades to play with. Either way, we're seeing both of these players bide their time and wait for the final moment to strike. Acer takes a bit of damage. Evil boy gains control.
Peeks out for just a second, and Evil Boy, after getting that damage in, is going to take advantage of it. He knows the other player went for a heal, so he's going to move up closer with that grenade. If that was his only grenade, I feel like he should have been way more calm with it. Take your time. You have the hard cover. You know Azur's stuck behind. Okay, so he has another grenade. I want him to use that third eye peek for that grenade.
Pocus gave information, but at this stage, Zute, it doesn't really matter, right? It's flatland in between.
I don't like
the third nade goes out. It's not going to go quite as close. Evil boy, he's kind of wasted 3 nades in a row.
Oh, it might be a waste, but the circle blesses Evil Boy. This is a good old Mexican standoff where Azur, though, has to make the play, and he's going to make it. He's got the grills, and the zigzags are coming in. Evil Boy's actually going to cook that grenade.
There you go, the nade comes out. Will it connect? It doesn't quite. Azur, he's going to push off forward. He knows it's do or die. It's now or never. The peak comes on through. The pre-fire from Evil Boy. It puts Azur down to a sliver of health. Switches over to the Vector. Goes for the pre-fire shots. One more bullet for Evil Boy. The drop shot comes through. And that's going to be La Familia with the chicken dinner.
Oh my gosh, what a win for La Familia. What a valiant stand for Chazmok Gaming. The adjustments out of La Familia, I thought it was over for them. But I don't know who got the knock onto Pocus, but that was absolutely huge. He took the buggy, he ran with it. The second they got the knock, they cleared that side out. They took advantage of it. And then, I mean, it came down to that zone bless, but did you see how low Evil Boy got the shots from? Chazmok was on point. So Chazmok had a super rough first 2 games. They didn't look anything like the team that we just saw. But we talked about it. These are experienced players. Maybe the teamwork isn't quite there yet, but individual player-wise, skill level-wise, everything was done on point between the last 2 remaining of Chazmok Gaming. And they didn't get the chicken, but it was quite a game for them.
Just like when we really take into account the games that we've had today, 2 of the games were 1v1s or 2v2s, right? It came down to 2 teams. that's really honestly the best you can always ask for in my eyes, as not only a commentator but as a spectator, and I've really enjoyed being a part of that in a big way. And the circle blessing for Evil Boy, but one thing that I absolutely love from Azer, I suppose two things, but one leading into another, is that he knew that he had to take the risk of going out in the open, right? I think he's a little bit lucky that Evil Boy committed to the nade, so it allowed Acer to kind of push a little bit more forward. But the simple thing of switching from the Groza to the Vector, some players might think, why are you doing that? Vector has a quicker rate of fire. So therefore, in that kind of close quarter combat, when you know that you're not going to connect all of those bullets, when he peeks and you're spraying, those bullets are going to connect that little bit quicker. And that's what put Evil Boy down to just that little bit of health. Unfortunately, Azer couldn't hold on and he went down, but a damn good effort from himself.
Yeah, it was well played from both players. We saw the La Familia player. He didn't just peek from one side. We talk about how right-hand peek has advantage. He used mostly right-hand peeks, but he switched up. He did peek from the left. He had to swing out a little bit wider on that left peek, but it gave a little bit of a question mark to the pushing player of Cosmog. He wasn't sure if he should pre-fire the right side or the left side. But, I mean, I think that was a beautiful game. The zone shifts were also amazing to see. And Chasmog, I mean, they got pushed by Big, too. And I thought it was over for them. But the shots were on point from, I think it was Shadowin. He nailed two players back-to-back out of Big.
Yeah, even though he went down in the end, it was a pivotal part of his team staying alive big time, so he definitely put in the work. We could talk so much more about that game, but we're going to go to a break, show you the highlights, and afterwards we'll come back with the Game 4 results. Don't go away. We'll see you guys in a couple of minutes. PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament Week 2 Day 1 has finished, and man, myself and Zute, I think we both
Best
had
day
the
yet.
same thought.
Best day yet.
What a day, man. What a day.
Yeah, we got the chance to see two 1v1 finishes that both
Yeah.
came super close. It wasn't even like, one player had a super huge advantage and won with full HP. It was two 1v1s that got super close. And taking a look at the match rankings, Imperium, even though Chazmok, right, we talked a lot about them, even though they didn't get the chicken dinner, they actually come out 1 point ahead of La Familia. And that was due to the proactiveness of Chazmok, how well they played it, and the individual player skill coming into that late game from Chazmok really shined through.
Big time. Big time. Like, a great turnaround from Chazmok in today's games, and I hope it's a sign of what they're gonna do in the rest of the week's games for sure. 25 and 19 in the last two games. That's a total of 44 points in two games. Yeah, okay, they only got 2 points in game 2 and 1 point in game 1, but still great turnaround. And when you consider their French community teammates, Game Lord, they finished the day, by the way, with a total of 80 points. That's an average of 20 per day. Like, this is a French revolution, you could argue. An absolute French revolution. They came into today second place overall in the community rankings, but only 9 points behind Germany. Both Big and LMV were playing today. Big did have a good set of games. LMV were a little bit hot and cold. I reckon this is just France taking a pretty cushiony lead.
Yeah, it's a back and forth. Like, we had one community in first place overall, then another, and now it's definitely shifting over back to the French side. Like you said, French Revolution. I also love the fact that the second Game Lord kind of let their steam blow off a little bit going into game 3 and game 4. Chazmok Gaming took up know, the baton, so to say. It's like almost Game Lord passed the baton over to Chazmok. Like, Chazmok, it's your guys' turn to step up. Chazmok stepped up on game 3, did better than Game Lord, and then on game 4, what we just witnessed, Chazmok absolutely, took it by storm. Still, they didn't get the chicken dinner, but they got the most points overall for that match. 25, of course, La Familia. Credit to them, too. Having a really good game.
Time.
9 eliminations, 24 total points. And Mega Power and Big, we question where Mega Power was. That was not their game to win, but a 7-point game finish. Mega Power's looking like they're coming back alive.
Yeah, I wanted to see that kind of, the breath coming out from them. I want to see that heartbeat, so to speak. And they showed it, so I'm really happy from that NORDIC side. Big. It was just a good game, a good day from the 21 points in the first game, 6 points in the second game, 21 in the second game, 16 in the third game. So just really solid day from Big. It's something we really have come to expect from them, so I'm really not gonna harp on about it too much. But it seems like, depending on, of course, there's still a lot more days to go, but one thing that could be heading in direction towards is just a clean 3-way fight in the overall standings, because Italy did have a good day as a community. Yeah, game 3 was a bit of a dud, but even in the fourth game, Red Moon still got 4 points, so it was 28 in total. They had, I think, 50 after 2 games, so it was a good 75-point day, should I say, from the Italian community. It's still going to keep them within arm's length. And when you look at Romania, yeah, okay, they only had one team representing them. That one team only got 13 points in the day. That leaves it all up to Eastern Stars on their backs tomorrow.
Eastern Stars did not play today. They are the most experienced team in this tournament. So, given what we've seen, like Italy, like France, like all the regions really stepping it up, especially on the side of Game Lord. Eastern Stars, they've got a lot to kind of catch up on,
They
right?
do.
Like
They do.
their record got broken by Game Lord. Like you couldn't have said it
Yes.
any better yourself. Eastern Stars had the record holder points for one day, and Game Lord just broke that today. So now Eastern Stars, they'll be playing tomorrow. Definitely something to look forward to, Imperium.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it indeed. But we've got plenty more action throughout the week. Lots more days to go, and we'll only see these teams continue to rise. Join us tomorrow for another day of the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. Thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. All the production crew, yourself, Zute, and all the players playing in it. Just it's amazing to be a part of it. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a lovely evening.